out of your way. Do that down, cause it's going my way.
Everybody ready? Y'all all ready? Everybody ready? Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Homer Lake Board of Aldermen to order. Really appreciate everybody coming out. As we say every time, good government depends on the involvement of the citizens. Thank you for coming out on this beautiful, beautiful evening. At this time, I'd like to ask Alderman Johnson to please lead us in invocation.
Let us bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we come tonight to say thank you. Lord God, we thank you for all the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us, Lord. Lord, we ask that as we meet on tonight, let us decrease so that you may increase, Lord, because mighty are the works of your hands. Lord, you are good. And Lord, we know that if you are in control, everything else will fall into place. Help us to be wise in our decision making. Lord, help us to think about others. Lord, we are here and we are your people. We need you, God. Bless those who are in foreign countries, God, who are experiencing loss and turmoil right now. God, we ask for a special blessing for them as well. These things I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Alderman. Would you please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Alderman David Young?
And salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all.
Yes, sir.
Roll call, please, Mr. Robinson.
Alderman Klein.
Here.
Alderman Bledsoe. Here. Alderman Geis.
Here.
Alderman Bostic.
Here.
Alderman Johnson.
Here.
Alderman Dupree.
Here.
Alderman Young.
Here.
All right, we're ready to go. Number one on the agenda is the vote on the municipal docket. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
I make a motion to approve the municipal docket.
We have a motion by Alderman Geis. Do we have a second to the motion? Second by Alderman Bledsoe. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Moving on down, number 2 is the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Johnson.
I move that we accept the consent agenda, items A through Q.
Do we have a motion? We have a motion by Alderman Johnson.
I'll second, Mayor.
We have a second by Alderman Dupree. Do we have any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. There are quite a few new hires here. Are any of these new employees of our city?
Mr. Daniel is.
All right, we have Mr. Daniel, who's going to be our new IT man. Welcome, Mr. Daniel. Good to see you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. All right. Number 3 is the claims docket. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
I make a motion to approve the claims docket. The general fund, $204,795.80. The bond-funded cap project expense, $26,194.05. The library fund, $10,966.56. The economic development fund, $28,192.99. And the utility fund, $235,689.19, for a total docket of $505,838.59.
We have a motion by Alderman Geis. Do we have a second?
A second.
Second by Alderman Johnson. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. All right. Number 4, a special guest and presentation. Letter A is Mr. David Engel. Is he ready?
Yes, Mr.
I'm
David
ready.
is on Zoom.
I'm ready. How are y'all today?
Hello, Mr. David. Good evening, sir. Hope
You
you're
hear me
well.
loud and clear, I bet.
Mr. Robinson, I'm going to turn this over to you since I don't know anything about computers.
Yeah, he's zooming in, so you'll just hear him on the speakers.
Didn't
He
get
was-
any pictures of me. I put on a nice shirt for y'all.
I can't hear.
Can you hear now?
A lot better, yes, sir.
Okay, good. Now, I was hoping to get a video conference here too. I put on a nice shirt for everybody. Nah, I'll go ahead and get down as far as, there we go. Saw you there briefly, Jim.
Yeah, you don't want to see me.
I tried to get me on, but we'll just kind of go ahead and kind of give you an idea where we are on the audit and what we've acquired so far, and kind of give you an idea of our schedule and how we're going to get this thing out. And I'll give you a date as far as when I would like to get it out. So I want y'all to hold me to the fire on that one. First things first, right now I'm finishing up a couple of other things, and I will be pretty much full-time on yours next week, putting together the financials and trying to get the report, or at least get a draft report by the end of April. During the field work when I was there a couple of weeks ago, Jim and I kind of discovered that we have a what's called a single audit. There was a federal program or project that was above a certain threshold of expenditure, so that's kind of added a little to the audit, but from what I've got so far, I think we're going to take care of that paperwork-wise, and we'll be able to just kind of push right through that, and it'll just be a little addition to the audit report for 2020 compared to last year's report. As far as the difference between 2019 and 2020, well, pretty much I've got one more year doing it, so we have some models set up, and we have a much better setup here now, and everything seems to be just going pretty smoothly this time around. There's been some stuff that we've kind of worked with the personnel there. We worked with getting your cash and getting your AP kind of in good order, and I think we've made headway on that. And I think we're at that point now where everything is pretty, easy to look at, easy to audit, and we can take that information and just move on and kind of go through our procedures. As far as the timeline, I already gave you a timeline as far as getting the field work and getting a draft report. We do have a review process. We'll be using Jim and Melinda Pogue and Marie Shoemaker as part of that process. I'll be sending them the draft report. They can critique it if they see any typos or anything there, any questions they have. We'll just kind of go back and forth and fix what we need to. There'll also be just internal review. We'll be doing that kind of at the same time. Only difference is we'll be getting, we don't have to go through extra bodies or extra organizations to get this report out. So my anticipated time, I would like to get a report out by the end of May. That will be, I'm sure that's the one thing y'all want to hear more than anything is when am I going to get this out? And right now I have got the end of May as my goal to get it out, get it published, get it released, and then we can start working towards future audits, 2021 and 2022. And by that time, I think we will be caught up. If we keep doing it on more of a 6-month schedule, by the 2022 audit, everything should be caught up. Everything should be back to a good schedule.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate all your hard work in getting this done. At this time, if you don't mind, Mr. David, I'd like to ask the members of the board if they have any questions or comments for you. Would that be all right with you, sir?
Please do. I'd love to hear from them.
Anyone have any questions or comments? Alderman Young.
Hello, David. How you doing, man?
Hey there, Alderman Young.
Got a question. Have you found any irregularities or anything between the last audit and this audit that might raise a red flag?
Right now, and of course, we're in the middle of the audit. Right now, I have not. Right now, I haven't detected anything. As always, if there's anything, you are more than welcome, or anybody, any of the aldermen, the mayor, anybody there. If there's something they see that they would like me to look at, I would be more than happy to take a little extra time and see if there is anything. Right now, just from audit procedures, I haven't seen anything that really stands out as far as a red flag or anything. There may be some internal control things that maybe there could be some improvements. They do have some mitigating things they do. So right now, I can't give you a clear answer on that one, because that could change by this time and by the time I get that report generated.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Alderman Bledsoe.
With this audit we got, do you see anything that will hold up any money from the state or anywhere else that we got?
I see nothing. I see nothing that will hold up any money from the state. It's just getting the reports out.
Okay.
That's all we can do at this point.
In the future, we shall have this done a lot earlier than what we got it now, right?
Right. There were some circumstances where we had to take a little time to get it, but we're going to be back on track, kind of as the schedule that I put forth. Tried to get a 20 and then did a 21, and then by the time the 22 comes out, we should be back on a normal schedule if we can do these in like 6-month blocks.
Well, the main thing, I just want to get us in compliance with everything so we can get the money that we ask for when it comes due.
Absolutely. I understand that seems to be a problem in a lot of places right now. So I will do what I can on that, and I'm sure y'all will do your part too.
Anyone else? Well, Mr. David, we certainly thank you for your hard work and looking forward to wrapping this up and get started on the next one. But thank you for all the extra time you spent and the trips you've made.
Not a problem. I think we're in a good place now. I think this should go a lot more smoothly from henceforth.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank y'all.
All right. Letter B, I think the gentleman is not here. Letter C, on special guests and presentations, Mr. Roy Ridgway and Mr. Matthew Ridgway. Hello, Mr. Roy. I believe you're here to speak about the Medical Cannabis Act.
Back in South Carolina.
Sir?
Matthew is in South Carolina.
Oh, in South Carolina. So yes, sir.
Well, thank you. I'd like to thank Mayor Latimer for the opportunity to speak here this evening. Distinguished Mayor, Alderman, and residents of Horn Lake. My name is Roy Ridgway, and I'm here today to discuss the opportunity presented to us in the pharmaceutical sector, the medical cannabis industry. I intend to discuss
Roy,
some of the
can I
pros and
interrupt you
cons.
just a minute and get by that microphone? You have a nice soft voice, and I don't hear well. I don't know about everybody else.
Okay, is this a little better?
Much better.
Okay, thank you. I intend to discuss the pros and cons of the opportunity for the city tonight. First, I would like to say that I've been a property owner, business owner, and operator in this city since 1999, and hope to continue for years to come. From engineering firms, electronics manufacturing to dog daycare and boarding, this city has treated me well, and I thank you. First, I'd like to address the positives of this opportunity for the city, as much has been said about the negatives. The economic benefits to the city will be significant. high-paying jobs, technical, high-tech jobs, some of which professionals like engineers that move here or are from the community, but others will be high-paying jobs in skilled labor and technicians hired directly from the community and given on-the-job training for this medical industry. Our planned small micro-cultivation facility projects 15 such jobs in the first year alone. And our proposed processing facility, a ground-up startup, is projected to employ another 10 highly technical operators and chemists in a laboratory environment. This is in addition to the handful of professionals, accountants, administrative, and legal that will also need to be employed for this business. The taxes and growth to the city that high-tech business implies, we project their sales to be 10 to 15 million, which from the sales tax alone would produce, as I understand it, about $200,000 for the city at the 18.5% local revenue sharing, as I understand it from my information. That's what the city gets. Not to mention any local sharing of the additional 5% excise tax imposed on the product. That is unclear how that would be shared if so. This is a growth industry. Mississippi can expect sales to build to $200 million during the startup period of this program, with $1 billion possible after a few years. And other states are an indicator of the progress of this business for states that have implemented a program. With so many opting out, it puts Horn Lake in a strategic position to grow this highly technical pharmaceutical industry in a positive way for the city into the future. Second, as I said, there's been much said about the negatives of marijuana, which in itself is a misnomer, a misconception, an ideal that is addressed by the Mississippi Medical Cannabis Bill. This is not someone down the street growing pot in his closet. This is a pharmaceutical product like aspirin that was chemically isolated by the chemists of the past from the willow tree bark. Medical cannabis is derived from compounds found in the cannabis plant. Medical cannabis will be highly governed and regulated by the requirements and the rules set forth in the Mississippi Health Department regulations. It is assured that to operate anywhere in the state, strict standards and quality control must be met to maintain compliance. Simply put, it will be impossible to work in this industry as a backyard grower. Next are the negative considerations that have been made an issue. It is true that in an unregulated area, a very large grow can have a strong odor that carries. Though if one has really ever truly lived near a hog farm or a paper mill, one would know that they cannot truly compare the smell of any flower, even one as strong smelling as a cannabis flower, to these types of odors. But the fact is that in the bill, Section 19, local audiences give the local jurisdiction the latitude to govern by ordinance environmental impacts, such as noise, smell, etc. The Horn Lake zoning ordinances in Article 5, Section M, Paragraph 2D, odors, specifically requires that no offensive or objectionable odor is emitted that would adversely impact surrounding land uses. So Horn Lake already has control of the zoning and any odor concerns that might arise anywhere in the city. When it comes to smell, there are carbon filtration systems that can be used to mitigate any adverse smells effectively. Some questions about the impact of having agricultural residential locations also growing have come up. The bill specifies agricultural zoning, not agricultural residential. While the legality of this is in the domain of lawyers and expected to be clarified by the Health Department, regulations still to be published, the practical considerations all but prohibit it. Any individual that spends the money to meet the requirements set forth by the state which includes security, power, water, and many other concerns, will either not have the resources to make the project viable, or quite reasonably, will not want the high-value target so close to living areas. Next is the concern of having selling, growing, and processing facilities near a church or school. This is understandable if you view it based on the ideal of an unregulated, illegal industry. But we are discussing a pharmaceutical product, which, by the way, has great medical benefits for many types of people with certain medical conditions. As such, there are already significant restrictions in place that no Walgreens or Bayer Pharmaceutical Company are required to meet. 1,000 feet straight line is a very significant restriction on its own, and one that is not easy to meet. Not to mention being coupled with the commercial, industrial, and agricultural zoning requirements already imposed by the bill. Simply put, you have a great deal of zoning authority already. Lastly is the cons for crime. We all want crime away from our families and our neighborhood. This is obvious and reasonable. The Mississippi Health Department will make security a cornerstone of their regulations. Like any pharmacy, all businesses in this area will be happy to meet or exceed their security requirements, as that's a major concern in this industry is security. To summarize, the pharmaceutical-based industry, the medical cannabis industry, business, represents a great opportunity for the future of the city of Horn Lake, both for the economic stability and the future growth of the city, as well as an opportunity for the city to become a leader in an industry early on, as so many are planning to opt out. It will be true that those cities who press ahead early will benefit most from the pharmaceutical industry, as the difficulty and price of entering into this industry will only increase as the industry matures, almost precluding effectively opting in later, as most businesses will have found a location and attracting business in this sector will be more difficult later on. Of importance to call out is the idea that opting out means that no medical cannabis cards will be held in the city. This is false. It just means that your citizens will have to go to other municipalities to buy their pharmaceuticals, exporting hard-earned dollars from the city. Horn Lake residents that are medical cannabis patients are going to have legal cannabis products in their houses and in their pockets on the streets here, even if Horn Lake opts out. Opting out only prevents business, which are required to be extremely secure, from locating in Horn Lake. The state is requiring a computerized system at every business that tracks all cannabis products, called the seed-to-sale software database. Each plant at approximately 6 inches tall will be RFID labeled and tagged with a unique ID number and tracked through grow, processing, and sale to the end patient. The product will be tracked constantly over time as the location changes, even inside of the grow area. In real time, the lot number on every patient's medicine bottle will be able to track that to the individual plant from which it was produced. This effectively eliminates the possibility of anyone obtaining medical cannabis that is not legally prescribed. There will be very tight control on each business inventory by the state, and diversion into the community from businesses will be practically impossible. Patient containers will have a unique ID traceable to the patient it was sold to, which is stored in this database. Important to know that there is a way for citizens to opt back in, even if a jurisdiction opts out. 1,500 signatures on a petition will force the jurisdiction to pay for and hold a referendum vote for the people to decide if they would like medical cannabis businesses in their city. This petition has already started in Horn Lake. Remember that 74% of Mississippi voters over a year ago voted for medical cannabis, and 90% of the state legislatures passed this The voters in Mississippi and Horn Lake want this program. A vote to opt out is a vote against business, a vote against jobs, and a vote against the voice of voters and state legislators who have approved medical cannabis twice. Why do I want to enter this industry? We are in an economic uncertain time, during which the cannabis business in various states has shown that this industry has done well during the last COVID years. When the Mississippi Initiative 65 was passed, study of other states starting up in the industry showed clearly that entry on the ground floor of this industry was a great opportunity, especially for entry when a state is just opening up, like we have in Mississippi here now. We started, Matt and myself, back in December of 2020, planning and designing the facility and preliminary building preparation until the Supreme Court overturned the state voter initiative process in May, invalidating the past Initiative 65, causing a halt in our preparations at that time to enter this industry. As I mentioned, this is a technical business. As chemical, electrical, software, and process engineers, myself and my son, Matthew, we have designed the equipment to grow and process medical cannabis over the last year and a half. We would also like to manufacture and supply this equipment in this rapidly growing market. The only way to be an equipment manufacturer in this industry is to be a grower and processor also. Due to the legal restrictions limiting access to medical cannabis for research, product development, and manufacturing and testing of cannabis processing equipment. The only way possible now is by being a state-licensed cultivator and processor of medical cannabis. I'm here today hoping that Horn Lake will partner with us and support the development of this industry, which we strongly believe is a truly green gold rush, benefiting the city, the businesses, and medical benefits to the citizens of Horn Lake. Don't sit by the sidelines. Be part of this major economic development, developing in the states and also at the federal level, as the MORE Act, decriminalizing cannabis, and the Safe Banking Act for allowing cannabis business banking is being worked on in Congress now. Let us all benefit from this opportunity by opting in. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. Roy? Does anyone? Alderman Young.
How you doing, Mr. Ridgway?
Yes, pretty good, sir.
Just one question.
Yes, sir.
What chemical or chemical composition is the patient looking for from the flower bud? What makes them feel the relief of the pain?
This is a very good question. The results of
A little
people's
closer.
reports,
I'm hard.
this is a very good question. The results of people's experience using this medication has been good. For example, epilepsy with children. It takes care of the seizures that the children have and many other things, for pain relief, all of that. Now, the compound in there, cannabis is composed of 12 different THC compounds. In addition to that, there are the additional compounds in the cannabinoids there. There are 270 some cannabinoids in a cannabis plant. The terpenes, which is what causes the odors that you smell that people talk about as far as the smell of this, and also have some medical benefits. The amount of research that has been done so far is very minimal because of the status of this plant. So to give an exact answer, we're working on it. It's still to be determined. But the compounds are well known, well defined, and they are possible to separate out individually in the processing so that you can separate out, for example, the THC9, there's Delta 8, Delta 10, there's a number of the cannabinoids on the THC. And then you have the CBD, you have CBDG, and like I say, there's 270 compounds there.
As I understand it, the main thing is THC. That's
Not
the pain
necessarily.
relieving.
Not necessarily. The effects of it's called the entourage effect, where a broad spectrum, that means not only the THC, but also the other compounds in there, all contribute to the medical benefits of cannabis. While THC is the feel-good part, they say.
Are these compounds available in any other form besides smoking a joint?
Oh, yes. They are used, they can be ingested by orally in the oils, extractions. That's what extractions are. When you extract it out. After the extraction is done, then the extracted material, the cannabinoids, which can be separated out chemically to whatever you want to produce out of the different compounds in the cannabis plant, can be separated individually. But the benefits are over a broad spectrum, seems to provide the best thing, which is a combination not only of the THC, but the CBD and the other compounds in the drug. The Congress has just passed, or they're working on it, Schumer is working on a bill, or I'm not sure if he's passed it yet or it's in process, that gives the ability for companies to do research into cannabis now. So they're just starting to get involved in the research. The only government federal cannabis work that has been done is at the University of Mississippi.
Correct.
And so that's the only place in the country where some work has been done, but there's not very much at all. Right. There is one or two, I think, prescription drugs that does use a synthetic derivative compound from the cannabis plant.
Right. Well, we have oils and different things. I'm just trying to get some education on it. So,
yeah, okay, sure, I'm glad to help you.
Thank you very much.
I tell you, I knew nothing about it when they passed it. I said, daggone, that's a good idea to look into that. And when I looked into it from the business side, and my dog business with the COVID and everything has gone down the tubes. Right. So we were looking at something at that time to move on to business-wise. And this came up, and we started looking into it. The more we looked into it, from the technical side, it looked very interesting.
Right. Well, the Indians have been smoking peyote for years, so, but anyway.
Pardon?
Indians have been smoking peyote for years, so.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments for Mr. Mr. Roy? Excuse me. I'm sorry, Mr. Roy.
Okay.
It's very obvious you've done a lot of research on this, Mr. Roy.
We've been working hard. And we hope we're able to do something here in Horn Lake. That's
yes, sir. And just a quick question, if I understood you correctly from what I've read, that the citizens, if we get 1,500 signatures on a petition, then they have a referendum, don't they?
Yes.
Okay.
That's
I
correct.
thought that's what you said in that. Yes.
Yeah, right on. The Senate Bill 2095, which is the Medical Cannabis Act, in the bill, it has a provision where if a locality opts out, the citizens are able to gather 1,500 signatures, and at that point, the municipality has to call a referendum and have a vote for it from the citizens. If they get a majority, then you're back in.
Yes, sir. Alderman Bostic.
If a municipality did opt out, is there a time frame that those 1,500 signatures would have to be in to move forward?
No, I have not found a time frame. I looked for that, but I did not find a time frame that it has to be done.
Also, and those 1,500 signatures, do they have to be registered voters?
Yes. I imagine they will.
I'm sorry?
I expect they would be.
So,
I don't know exactly how it's written. It just says 1,500 signatures from the citizens of that residence, I think is what it says in the bill. I'm not sure of the exact wording.
Got you. All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
Mayor.
Alderman Young.
Alderman Bostic, the only thing that would, on the referendum, you was asking, it would have to comply with the Secretary of State's directive on referendum, so it could be placed into the voting, so it could be put on the ballot. So there is a time frame, but it falls on the Secretary of State's website.
Okay. I wasn't aware.
Anyone else? Well, Mr. Roy, we certainly thank you. You can see this.
Well, I thank all of you for having me here and giving me the opportunity to discuss this. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir, and we appreciate your past business ventures in Horn Lake, sir.
It's been interesting and fun. I hope to continue.
Yes,
Mayor,
sir.
Mayor, We're not gonna allow him to bring any samples up here, right?
No, sir.
Okay, just checking.
No, sir. All right, Roman numeral 5, planning. I believe that has been taken off the agenda. So we're down to Roman numeral 6, new business. Letter A is award and approval of the municipal depository. We had a couple of bank bids, the Renaissance Bank and the Bank Course South. Would y'all like to hear from Mr. Robinson before you make a motion on this?
Sure.
Mr. Robinson, it is your time to shine. I believe every alderman got the information in the package, didn't they? Okay.
Yes, let me pull that back up here. We did receive 2 bids, and I included that in your packet.
Mr. Robinson, could I get you to?
Yes.
Thank you.
I did include that in your packet, and you can see that the bids were different in a couple different ways. We are currently with Renaissance Bank. Their bid came back with one option of a 0.05 interest rate on all the funds that we have in the bank. And then in the years past, we have had 0 fees. All fees have been waived in the past on all of our banking business, and from anywhere from deposits to ACH transactions. Renaissance bid has fees in there. You can see that the fees could range from vary to vary each month. It could be anywhere from $4,800 to $9,000 for the year, based on kind of the average transactions that we have that take place. So you can see the total earning based on what we average in the bank is about $6,500. So we have a potential with Renaissance of having an income just from the interest of $1,700 and potential of a loss of $2,500. So that was in your packet. Bancorp gave us 2 options. They had a 0.06 interest rate with no fees. So our interest, based on what we have in the bank, it would be about $7,800 with no fees. So we'd have $7,800, depending on how many the dollar amount of funds we have in the bank. They gave another option, which is a higher interest rate that is 0.12%. You can see that would, over the course of the year, bring in about $15,600 in interest. They did have fees in there, and they had a cap on the fees that would not go over $750 a month. Renaissance did a study, and they said, on average, we're about $350 a month in fees based on their new rate. So you can see the fees would range from $4,800 to $9,000. So we have a potential to make over $10,000 in interest once you deduct the smaller amount of the fees, and still make up to $6,600. So those are your options. I had put in my letter, a memo to you all that just financially, as much as, I don't like changing banks because of all the vendors and entities that we have that have our set up with our accounts. It does take a while to do that. Financially, being financially sound and prudent with the citizens' money, Bancorp does have the more strong or structured bid with no potential of having to pay out for the banking services. Renaissance, we could potentially have to pay out for banking services. I kind of misstated earlier. I said lose money, but we would have to pay out. We wouldn't be losing any money as a city. We would just have to pay out in fees, potentially, with Renaissance. So as you can see with Bancorp, we have a higher possibility of making more money with a higher interest rate that does have fees than that lower interest rate that has no fees, but that still would gain us money throughout the year.
Mr. Robinson, I'm noticing here that Bancorp South offers a flexible rate, but then there's the comment, but that's very risky. But everything I see on the news and read is, it looks like the Federal Reserve is going to keep pumping the interest rate up and up and up, maybe a quarter at a time, 4 or 5 times a year. Will Renaissance also offer that in case the board wanted to do it that way?
Well, I believe we have to choose right up front. Billy might be able to, we have to designate which option. I did not see anything in there where we could change at any time throughout the 4-year contract. And this is a 4-year term now with this bank bid. But yeah, I do think the rates are going to go up, but you never know with different elections, the midterm election, what will happen, or the next presidential election.
I think Mr. Campbell would like to make a comment.
I was just going to answer your question, Mayor. Renaissance did not offer a variable rate in their proposal. Bancorp South was the only one that had that.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else have any questions or comments for Mr. Robinson? We'll just go ladies first. Alderman Johnson.
Mr. Jim, if we were to transfer accounts, how much time would you anticipate it would take to get everything properly moved over from one bank to another? I know, with a household, it might be a little tedious, but just thinking about all the accounts that the city might have and all the business that takes place here, what do you anticipate that looking like if we were to come to that?
Yes, well, since I've been here, we have changed 3 times. So each time it takes several months, mainly because each department, we have to get a new banking deposit procedure in place. In the past, the banks provided locking bags. They've got to get those bags ordered, get those to us, so we'll have those in each department. I have to order stamps, deposit stamps for each department, and each stamp has to have the particular accounts that we switch over. So I can't order the stamps until we start this process and get the actual account numbers set up through the new bank. And then we have to go through our different vendors, and it's more for, it affects more funds that come in for police, court, and utilities, because with court and utilities, if you'll recall, we've mentioned in the past that they're not on Munis. Court goes through Syscon, so those new account numbers have to be sent in to Syscon folks to get that in the system. BBI is who handles our financial portion with utilities. Those new account numbers have to be sent in to them, and then I send in pay mode is the way we receive funds from the state, like all the police grants, all our sales tax, hotel motel tax, anything that comes from the state comes through pay mode. That's a little easier because we have about 10 different groups that we receive money from police and the state, and those all go through pay mode. So once I switch pay mode, they're all good. We've learned our lesson with trying to switch the fire stuff, so we kind of leave that alone. But it is switching over with our vendors and getting all the materials that we need, stamps for all the departments, bags, and getting that in place takes several months.
You've said that you've done it before. Has there been a time where anything has fallen through the cracks?
I don't recall us ever having any issues besides with the fire department. And we kind of leave that one alone. Our last bank move, we left fire where it was just because the different folks that send in money, all the insurance companies that send in funds for ambulance trips to the hospital, it is hard to get them on the same page. And we've had money, when that happened, we had money going to old banks. So we've remedied that, and we don't do that anymore. But all the other departments and all the other steps that we go through, I don't recall ever having any issues.
Thank you.
Anything else, Alderman?
No, sir, thank you.
Alderman Dupree.
Hey, can you tell me again what the benefit would be to go to Bancorp South? How much money we would make in interest over Renaissance? Can you say that again?
Yes, depending on which option we took with Bancorp, the one that could reap us the most benefit would be the interest rate of 1.12, which we could make up to $10,800 a year. So over the 4 years, we could make over $40,000 in interest. At the best case scenario, and you can see there the worst case scenario, we could end up paying somewhere around $2,500 a year in banking fees, staying with Renaissance, depending on how many transactions we have.
Okay, so we would be better off going with Bancorp South, correct?
Financially, yes.
Financially,
yes.
Okay. Financially, with a little bit of work, 2 or 3 months to get everything switched over to make $10,000 a year over the next 4 years, $40,000 for a little bit of work is not that bad.
No, it
Right.
it is not.
Okay.
Anything else, Alderman?
No.
Alderman Young.
This is just my info. If we went back to Renaissance and said, we'll do away with the 0.5%, you don't charge us any fees, it's going to save us that much money in all the new bank checks and all the new money we're going to spend initially right now. Would that not be correct if they would do that? I mean, I know everybody wants to make interest on their money, but 0.5%, you're making 0.5 penny on 100. I mean, really? We're going to pay out more than that. So do you think that would be an option, that they would do away with the interest and that we would not be charged a service fee?
Well, we sent out for bids and initially only got Renaissance the first time, which was pretty much, I don't think they changed anything in the first bid that they submitted. And I did tell them we were going to have to go back out for bids because we only received one with fees, and the fees were kind of the stickler with that. Okay. They came back with the same thing. So I don't think they're going to be willing to do away with the fees because they came right back knowing that could potentially knock them out.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Anyone? Alderman Bledsoe.
This is for Billy. Is this not a bid that we asked them to put in a bid? So we can't go back and negotiate, I don't think, for a bid.
No, I think we're past that point, though, Alderman Bledsoe.
Okay, and then one other question. Okay, Bancorp South, if they can change names, is that going to affect, you going to get stamps that says Bancorp South and all of a sudden they change banks?
I did talk to them about that, and they're looking at the timeline and when they're going to do that. Some of their stuff online is already changed to Cadence Bank, But we would order the things that would coincide with whatever they're going to be changing to over the next 4 years.
So we won't have to buy then, rebuy because they changed the name to, that's what I'm getting at.
Yes.
I don't buy it twice.
No, sir. Alderman Klein.
So, Jim, so the other contracts that we've had over the years, have they been 4-year contracts?
No, it's always been 2, and then the legislators changed that to a 4-year term. So whoever we go with this time will be with for 4 years.
Anyone else? Mr. Campbell, do you have something?
Mayor, I'm
Yes,
going
sir.
to try not to complicate this anymore, but I do want to at least go back to your comment about the variable rate option that Bancorp South proposed as well. And I did some calculating on that today, and the Fed would have to raise the Fed funds rate by another full point before we would make more money on the variable rate as compared to the fixed rate. So if we were betting folks and thought they would do that, then we could go with the variable rate option, but we're not sure about that. So that's the reason the fixed rate options were just listed on the memo to the board.
Thank you, sir. I just can't imagine them going any lower than we already have. So at this time, is there any more discussion? Well, it's time to take a vote and see who is going to be awarded our municipal depository. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Dupree.
I'll make the motion, we switch over to Bancorp South. Reason being, if we can make money in the long run, I think that's the best option. If we can make that money, instead of making no money, why wouldn't you do that? So my suggestion is to go with Bancorp South, the 0%. Well, the no fee.
Okay.
The no fee.
All right, we have a motion by Alderman Dupree to award the depository to Bancorp South at their rate of 0.06 of 1%, and with a no fee in there. Do we have a second to the motion?
Second. Mayor, I'll second that.
All right, we have a second by Alderman Young. Is there any discussion? Mr. Robinson, if the board does choose to select Bancorp South at that rate, in that 4-year period, if the interest rate did go up to say 2 and 3%, will we have the option to go back and negotiate, or are we locked in at the 0.06?
I believe that it is set in the contract, so.
All right, so they would mop up, okay. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree. Aye. Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. All right. Letter B, do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
I make a motion to amend the job description for lead utility clerk and customer service supervisor.
We have a motion by Alderman Geis. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Bledsoe. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please, Mr. Robinson.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Letter C, do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Johnson.
I'd like to move that we request the approval of $225 application and sanction fees to be made out to Dizzy Dean Baseball for the 2022 Horn Lake Youth League held at Latimer Lake Parks.
We have a motion by Alderman Johnson. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Second by Alderman Bostic. Will any discussion? Mr. Robinson, roll call, please, sir.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Klein.
Aye. Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Letter D, do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
I make a motion to approve the street department budget transfer.
We have a motion by Alderman Geis. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Klein. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Oh, aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Letter E, do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Johnson.
I move that we approve payment estimate number 1 for the EWP Apple Creek project to Trey Construction Incorporated in the amount of $32,200.25.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Johnson. We have a second by Alderman Bledsoe. Is there any discussion?
It looks good that the work that they did.
Good.
Thank you, Vince.
Roll call, please, Mr. Robinson.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. We're on letter F. Mr. Vance, what were the modifications for the benefit of the citizens? Please, sir.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, on this project, this was a project that was started several years ago. As a matter of fact, it was part of the SRF loan that we got back in 2018, I believe, that allowed us to construct the well out on Nail Road near Twin Lakes. This project was supposed to be along with that as far as doing some line work within the Twin Lakes subdivision. The project was bid separately from the Nail Road well simply because it's a different type of work, a well contractor and a line contractor. So the well came in approximately what we expected, but this portion of it, the line work, came in way over budget. So at that time, it was kind of set aside and said, you know, we're not going to do that. And I'm not sure exactly, you know, why it wasn't picked back up, but I think there may have been some talk about maybe some other project may, you know, be a higher priority at that time or something. I'm not sure. But that being said, basically where we are is the DEQ is saying, okay, you have a loan out there that's open. We either need to close it or we need to move forward with it. And so to move forward with it, we looked at the project and we said, okay, we'd like to do that, but there's some minor changes we'd like to make. And the changes we made were, after talking with Public Works Department, we found that some of the line that we had identified originally as potentially bad line was actually not AC pipe. It was not actually AC pipe. So in talking with Mr. Box, he told us that, well, there's some 3-inch line out there along 301 that needs to be obviously upsized. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take the line work that was originally inside the subdivision and replace it with the line work along 301.
I put it up.
Yeah, it's on that proposed layout drawing there. And so with that, we reworked our budget estimate for today's dollars, today's cost, and the new amount came up to 1.1 million. And we have talked to DEQ about it, and they said that we can probably move forward without having to do much of a modification to it, as far as, you know, their process, which typically would require what they call a facility plan upgrade or modification. We can probably bypass that and move forward, which would just streamline the process for us. So we just need to make a decision tonight. I guess the board needs to make a decision as to how they want to move forward. If they want to go ahead and move forward with this project, which, like we said, is a 1.95 interest rate at this time for 20 years, and that equates to approximately $5,550 a month, which comes out of sales tax.
Thank you, Mr. Malavasi, and I apologize for catching you cold. It's my fault. But do you think these modifications are needed, or is this just a suggestion, well, we've got the money, let's just go ahead and do it? What do you think they're needed at this time?
Yes, and I'll tell you, the overall, when we first looked at this project, the overall driving force was we were replacing a small line that was feeding Twin Lakes from, I don't know, approximately where is it, what's the name of the subdivision where the flow meter is?
Nicole Place.
Yeah, approximately where Nicole Place is, to the west. We're going to replace that line with a 12-inch to give us more pressure out there and feed that tank, because we were having problems with the tank and providing pressure out there. So we're going to upsize that line. That need is still there as far as I know. And then, like I said, replacing the AC lines now, instead of AC lines, it's a small 3-inch line. We know that won't fight a fire, so is the need there? Yes, sir, it is.
Thank you, sir. Anyone have any questions or comments? Alderman Dupree, this is your ward. Yes, sir.
You know, we have a water issue already, and would this affect that anymore of the brown water when you're digging up and replacing, or would it help when you get done with this the system? Would it actually help the water because there's a bigger pipe and it's not so forced through there, and maybe it's not flushing out some of that iron?
Yeah.
Am I thinking correctly?
Well, to some degree, you are. If we were replacing it with ductile iron or something like that, but typically a new line is not going to cause more rust problems or color problems, which is where basically it comes from. The biggest thing is we're putting in a new filter at the treatment plant itself, which is going to filter out anything coming out of the well, which is basically where a lot of iron is coming from. We know that from the tests we've taken.
Okay.
So there is iron coming from the well. We're going to filter that, get it out, and then putting in new lines, we're basically be replacing with PVC anyway. So you're not going to get that kind of issue.
Okay.
Anything? Alderman Bostic.
You're just gonna have cleaner brown water.
Hey, as long as it's filtered up.
Thank you, Mr. Alabasi. Anyone else? Anyone else? Well, this is your ward. Did you want
Yeah, I'll make a motion to pass this.
We have a motion by Alderman Dupree. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
A second by Alderman Bostic. Do we have any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. All right. Letter G. This is not a public hearing here, is it? No?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Letter G. And I know Mr. Roy is waiting here for it. Do we have a motion?
Mayor?
Alderman Dupree.
I rescind.
Sir,
I rescind. Go ahead. I have nothing.
do we have a motion on letter G?
Mayor,
Alderman Young.
I'll make the motion considering the resolution opting out of the cultivation, processing, sale, and distribution of medical cannabis and cannabis process. I wish to opt out.
All right. We have a motion by Alderman Young. Do we have a second?
I will second that, Mayor.
We have a second by Alderman Dupree. Do we have any discussion?
Mayor,
Roll call. Did you have a discussion, sir?
one thing, the reason is opt out, cause later on you could get back in if they work all the stuff out in that big.
Exactly.
That's one
That's I mean, people need this. I get that. It's not, the issue is I don't want us to be on the fall down side of this thing and make a mistake that later on we're going to regret as a city.
Well,
It's
that's what I'm
coming.
saying.
We know that it's coming, but I
That's
just think
what I said.
we need to trudge. We don't need the mule stuck in the mud on this.
Yeah, so that's what I was talking about.
Mayor.
Alderman Klein.
And also, the state's not gonna come out with their, regulations until May 1st. In order to opt in, we'd have to do it by May 3rd, and that just doesn't give us enough time to look at all the facts.
Anyone else?
Mayor,
Alderman Johnson.
just want to be clear that if we opt in, we have no other option but to stay in. But if we opt out now, we can opt in when we are ready. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That's correct.
What is that date that that we have to opt back in?
There's no deadline on it. It can be 1 year, 2 year, 10 years, assuming the law is not changed in the interim.
Anyone else? Alderman Young.
Yeah, Alderman Bucks, there's one thing we can guarantee in this, there will be change. They're gonna be changing this thing back and forth, because just like the gentleman, there's a lot of cities opting out of this. And naturally, to get this across the state, we're gonna need to provide this service for people. I mean, I get it, I understand it, but we don't wanna be the mule in the mud and, go through another process like some of them are going to go through. We just need to wait and sit back and make a intelligent decision on this and how we're gonna do it. Because the state's gonna allow us to rezone things just specifically for this, which it needs to be. There needs to be specific zoning for this, and they're gonna allow us to do that. But that was my thought on it.
Well, I think they should have given us a little more time to make a decision, since they're gonna make all those different provisions. It's not like we don't wanna go against what the 74% of Mississippi voted.
That's right.
And if we don't wanna have to pay for a special election
That's
of
right.
1,500 or more registered voters making us do this, and then making us all look out to be bad guys here.
Exactly.
I mean, it's probably a good product. It probably does some good things, and there's a lot of people that need it for the conditions that they need it for, and I understand that. But I don't want to look like the bad guy and then go, "Oh, Horn Lakes they didn't stand behind what the voters wanted."
Right.
But they stuck us in a hole by not getting all the things ironed out, by us having to do what we're having to do right now.
Right.
So people need to understand that.
So we can figure out what's in it.
Right. Okay.
Alderman Klein.
Yes, I mean, there's a whole lot to be educated on, because I think there's 5 different items that you can possibly, opt out from separately. Cultivating is one of them. We definitely need more time, because we would very well opt in on 2 or 3 and opt out on the rest.
Any more discussion? Alderman Geis.
I do want to vote for this, but I want to make sure have it written into our ordinances and policies, so we're doing it right for the public. Yeah. So that's my concern. I plan on eventually voting for it if we get it written correctly.
Any more discussion? Alderman Boston.
Real quick, I just want to ask Billy. So if we vote to opt out of all 5 of these things that's on here, when we go to vote opt back in, we can just pick
You can.
and choose the ones that we want
That's right.
to go back into. Okay.
Any more discussion? Roll call, please, Mr. Robinson.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Guys.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Klein.
Aye. Motion carries, 7 in favor, none opposed. All right.
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
I got a question. Would it be beneficial to us to maybe have a committee to look at how we want to write the ordinances? So wouldn't it be beneficial?
I don't know if it would be beneficial right now till we see. The last I heard, and this was about 3 weeks ago, there were some amendments to the law from the Senate side, but I have not received any information what they were, whether they passed, whether they went to the House. I don't know. If the board chooses to have a committee, that's completely up to y'all. It seems like we don't have enough information yet to know where to go.
Well, I was just saying we could form one and then meet once we have more information instead of having to come back later and do it again.
Sure.
If that's our intent, is to eventually pass something.
Well, yeah, you're exactly right, but under the state law, we can't apply a new ordinance either for or against this. We have to go with the state law. Now, we can add to or reduce, or we can't reduce anything to state, we can add to, but we can't make a new ordinance by state law to accept it or not accept it. We gotta go by the law. So they will, and they are working right now to write a new zoning ordinance specifically for this in the House. That's to give us and it's in there, you don't want this by a daycare, and it's in there, but there's still some issues that they're having to work out. And the one thing that the mayor was talking about, the two resolutions that they were trying to move through, one was to change a description of who was going to be over, from agricultural to human, the health department, and back to and then they were playing games with all that, political games, and that failed. And then there's another one that they were looking at as to the amount of the use. They were trying to rescind and reduce that, and that failed as well. The law is standing as governor signed. But yeah, Mayor, I completely agree with the committee to stay on top of this, to talk with Senator Blackwell and Senator, all of them. And I think that's a fabulous idea. We need to stay in touch on this. We really do.
Yeah. Would you be, is that all right with the board? Everybody on the board comfortable with that? Alderman Geis, would you consent to be on it?
Sir. Yes, sir.
All right, Alderman Young, and we need one more.
Ms. Johnson?
We can do a two-man committee. Alderman Bledsoe.
Yeah. My thought on it is, in between now and when the legislature makes its decision, we could have already had a petition, and it would be good for the public to know that we're trying to work on this and we aren't trying to
I think
avoid
Mr.
it.
Roy said there was a petition already in
Yes, sir.
moving on.
It won't take long to get 1,500 signatures.
We don't have to have a vote on that.
No, sir.
Ad hoc.
Mayor,
Alderman Klein.
should we not try to get a couple of citizens to serve on this committee also?
You might want to expand to that. I think right now, if I understand the purpose of what Alderman Geis proposed was just to stay on top and see what the final rules and regulations are. And then after you get those, y'all might want to expand it on out. Is that suitable?
Sounds good to me, yeah.
Okay. Okay, y'all ready to move on? Yes, sir. All right, number 7, citizens' remarks. Mr. Andrew Scandroli?
Yes, sir, you actually said that right.
All right. Mr. Jim, do you have Mr. Scandroli's address and everything already? Yes, sir. All right, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, I came here today to speak on the Medical Cannabis Act as well, and Mr. Ridgway back there, he kind of covered a lot of what I wanted to say. But I also just wanted to reiterate that we don't want to just be a business in the community. We actually want to be a part of the community. And I just think that, the idea that you guys just had about forming a committee is a great idea. We're looking to open a processing and cultivation center. We've been looking at property here in Horn Lake. Obviously, before purchasing anything, we need to know that, we're welcome here and everything. And so, if the members of the committee or anyone else has any, questions, I would be happy to make myself available. Like Mr. Ridgway back there, I've spent over a year kind of focusing on this aspect. I've worked in the industry in another state as well, so it's something I know a good bit about. I don't like using the term expert or anything like that, but so yeah, I just not going to take up any more of your time, but just want to let you guys know that.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Andrew?
I do.
Alderman Dupree.
You
No, sir. My partner, he lives in Coldwater.
Okay, where are you from?
I live in Memphis.
Okay. So when you weigh it out, people who actually have needs, and then you got this other half that don't really need it, they want it.
Correct.
But they still have this medical marijuana card. That's a new word. So, and when you weigh it out, I've been doing a lot of reading on this. The people who actually need it is a lot less than the people who want it, but who have a card. It's so easy to get a card. And they're
Well,
doing it for
we don't know
municipal
exactly
purposes.
how easy it's going to be in Mississippi yet, but I do understand your concern and your point.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. How many people in the city of Horn Lake actually need this marijuana? I'm for that. But the people who get out here high, driving down the road, stinking up my cove like they do it now, I don't want that.
I would just mention the fact that, you know, people abuse all sorts of prescription pills and such and drive and, you know, those sort of things already. Not that that's okay by any means,
Why add
but
to it, though?
I understand that. I would also just mention that, you know, at least in my humble opinion, marijuana is a lot safer than opioids.
Well, let me tell you, I spent a lot of time in law enforcement, and the chief down here could tell you as well. I'd much rather deal with somebody who's high on marijuana than drinking liquor.
100%. 100%. Especially when it comes to being behind the wheel.
No further.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Andrew.
Thank you, guys.
Mr. Wright, President. You have Mr. Wright's address and everything, don't you, sir?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wright, you have kinfolk down in Tate County?
Right?
You have some kinfolk down in Tate County?
Mr. Mayor, I don't know. It may be, you know, I come from a large family.
I used to rabbit hunt on Mr. Wright's place down out east of San Antonio. That's why.
No, not that I know of.
You have the floor, Mr. Wright.
Okay. Well, Mr. Mayor, City Council, Alderman, I was under the impression that there was going to be a vote on restricted parking in the city of Horn Lake. That's why I came here. And since you all don't have that on the docket, but one thing I wanted to say about the parking in Horn Lake and in my neighborhood, I am not opposed to taking cars off the street because in my neighborhood there are entirely too many cars on the street. What I would like to see, if the council is going to vote for that, allow the homeowners to have a card or two that would allow their visitors, when they come to visit for a couple of days, to put that sticker on their car. Now, I'm from Tacoma, Washington. I moved to this great city 9 years ago. And that's what we did there. It was restricted parking. You could only have so many cars on the street. There could only be so many cars at that house. But you were able to buy, I think, a maximum of 3 stickers. So when your visitors came, you could put the sticker on the car and they could park there. So I just want to, but since you guys don't have it on the docket, and I'll come again when you do.
Well, that's a good idea. Did you get the stickers from the police department? Is that where you got them from?
The city issued those stickers. Didn't necessarily come from the police department. Came from the city of Tacoma, which I worked for 31 years. So the mayor's office or department of, not the mayor's office, issued the stickers through the police department, something like that. But so that's why I was here. One additional thing, I noticed that marijuana issue is a large issue that people in this city and this state is going to have to deal with. My job in Tacoma, I worked for the city of Tacoma for so many years, and I set up accounts for marijuana that was coming into the state of Washington and the city of Tacoma. And that was recreational marijuana, not medical marijuana.
One thing that I found out about that, if it's done right, it can be safe and profitable to the city.
Mr. Wright, before you sit down, please, if I may, once this committee gets going up here and reaches that point where they'd like for some citizens' involvement, we sure would like to see you volunteer to be on it.
Let
You've
me
got
think
the
about
experience,
Let
and
me
you're
think
with a
about
good
that.
man down there, so I know you're straight up.
Oh, my next door neighbor, yeah. Let me think about that, okay? But I'll follow the council, and when the committee want to add the citizens to it, I'll think about it, and I might even be a part of it.
We take that as a yes. Thank you very much.
Mayor, I got one question for you.
Wait, Mr. Wright, who had a question? Oliver Bledsoe.
When you get those ticket or parking passes, is that for the whole city? I mean, automatic, if you're gonna park on the streets, I live in agriculture, and we have plenty of room. So if I want, my kinfolks come, they wanna park on the street, they're gonna have to have one of those passes.
Certain neighborhoods had restricted
Okay.
parking.
You answer.
So that was for certain neighborhoods. I don't know how Horn Lake is gonna do it. I don't know if restricted parking. First of all, I heard this secondhand, and so I don't really know what's going on. I came down to speak to the issue. But what we did was that the city issued stickers, and I think we paid $5 per sticker per year, up to a maximum of 3. But there could not be parking on the street for 24 hours by anyone who didn't have a sticker in the car, and there was a limit, I think it was limited to 3 cars. So the city made money off, as well as, off the citizens as well, selling them the stickers.
So the police enforce that?
Yes, they did. That's what the police for, right?
I thought
Just nod your head, Chief Brown, just nod your head.
Chief. I'm just sitting here.
Alderman Boston.
Yeah, I wanted to clear something up with you. The ordinance for the prohibited parking is already an ordinance in the city. It's nothing that we have to vote on. What we were doing, we're going to enforce that by recommendation from the police chief on streets that need requirement of no on-street parking. Okay, so it won't be something that's voted on. It'll just be something that we are going to move forward, and going to be different couple little areas in town that have congested parking areas. We're going to focus on that. Great suggestion that you had there, that, maybe down the road we could do something like that. I know in other cities they have in their neighborhoods the no parking on the street, but on the weekend there is some leniency where if there's a party going on or something, a few cars or whatever. But our main goal is for the safety and by the recommendation from the police chief, and it'll just be an ordinance that we already have in place that we're going to be enforcing. So I just want to make sure you understood that.
Oh, I understood that. One of the things that they did there, it was restricted parking or no parking during a certain time, from this time to that time, and after that. But anyway, it depends on where you're from, but
I got you.
however you do it. But I just want to speak to the issue. I am not opposed to it.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I'm probably for it, but there has to be consideration for the homeowners there if they had businesses to come and visit for a couple of days.
I understand. I'm sure we can look into that, but there probably will be some signs going up within the next month or so. All right.
What
Thank you,
subdivision?
Mr. Wright. Wait, Mr. Wright, I don't think you're going to get to sit down.
What subdivision do you live
Now,
in?
let's keep it short. He wants to sit down.
My
He's tired.
address is 1404 Arbor Lake Drive North. That's my alderman right there.
Okay.
Horn-
No, Arbor Lake.
Horn Lake. Oh, I'm sorry.
And I will,
This is
I'm just the best looking one. That's your alderman.
I'm sorry.
and I also want to clear up something as well. Most of the signs going up are going to be in subdivisions that have covenants in it.
Yeah, we're safe.
And you're one of them.
We're safe there, yes, sir. All right. I am so sorry. I got you crossed up. I'm sorry.
Easy mistake, easy mistake. All right, Mr. Chad Sons. Excuse me.
Good evening,
evening,
ladies and
sir.
gentlemen. Thank you for their time. I do thank you for the starting prayer as well. I was going to do that, but thank you.
All right.
I come to you tonight. I am 35 years old, born and raised Horn Lake or Nesbitt. We did get annexed. Y'all got Apple Creek. I moved into 1570 York Haven Drive at the corner of 51 and Church Road behind Calvary Baptist Church 6 years ago. My grandparents built the home in 1986, Fred and Sally Plunk. Also, my neighbor, Richard, built his house the same time, knew my grandparents well.
Alderman Klein, you can take over just a second if you would, please.
Yes.
Excuse me, sir.
May I wait till you come back, because I'd like for you to hear me.
Sir?
I'd like for you to hear me.
Yeah, just let me get some water.
Yes, sir.
He has allergies going on.
We all got something going on, I'll say that. Sorry to hold everybody else's time, but I do want everybody to hear this.
I hope you're fine. That's what we're here for.
Thank you. I wouldn't, well, I'll wait. Thank you.
I'm glad you can make it tonight.
Yes, thank you, Tommy, for speaking. I live in Tommy's ward, by the way.
We're sorry.
Hey, he's the only one when I called for the city, he's the one that actually seemed concerned. All right, everybody else didn't want to deal with it. Didn't want. I don't know. I'm not gonna say any names. It wasn't aldermen or nothing. Just saying. Thank you, Tommy. All right, Alan. Thank you.
So, Mr. Fred Plunk was your grandfather?
Yes, sir. Fred Plunk.
Fine gentleman.
Yes, very well. A lot of people knew him. His contract was a handshake. It was not paper.
Break your hand.
He built the house that I live in. It was his last home he built. I've been there in and out of the house for 35 years, so I know the neighbors. I know the houses around it. There's two things I come to you to talk about today. One being medical marijuana, which is a hot topic. The other is the cell phone tower located 550 feet from my home, 350 feet from his home, 111 feet to the closest home. First off, on the medical marijuana, I'd like to ask, thank you guys for your honest opinion that you will vote but want concerns. I agree with that. I hope everybody has that vote. I want to show you my daughter. This is Evelyn Mae Sons. She is 2 years old. Okay? This beautiful little girl at some times has had 100 seizures and spasms in one day. One day. Watch it. This was before she was 2. Watch a little girl go through that many seizures. You'll vote yes next time, the first go around. Not wait. Be leaders in this industry. Take charge. Be somebody in this. Don't wait on the sidelines and see what other people are going to do. We're going to miss out on other opportunities. Yes, there will be opportunities to come, but we are also missing out on some early on. I don't enjoy seeing this little girl go through seizures. Okay? Come to my house. I welcome you to watch her go through a seizure. I welcome you. With that being said, we have done a trial run in other medical marijuana states. We have tried through Le Bonheur 10 medical pharmaceutical meds. Nothing worked. They got worse. They gave her more seizures, made her doped up, and she was nothing. It took us finally getting off of all medications and trying CBD before I saw a smile out of my daughter when she was 1 year old. Imagine your baby not smiling for 1 year because of seizures and her neurology disorder. I ask that y'all take this in consideration. I'm just one. You're right. More people just want to get high. But the ones that need it are the ones that need it. They need it. It's not just if, it's now. Because your decision my daughter might lose her life. Every seizure, she drops her oxygen. We have to throw on the oxygen machine. We're on pulse ox machines. We're on a feeding tube. She doesn't reach out. She doesn't laugh. She doesn't cry. Or she cries, but that's about it. Please consider it. The other topic is the cell phone tower located behind our house in Churchwood Estates. With my daughter and her seizure activity, I've been connecting dots, trying to see what's going on. Because some things have changed in my whole family, not just my daughter. It's also changed in my neighbors. We see something happening around this tower. We don't know what it is. Doing research. Cell phone towers put out EMF. It is electromagnetic fields. Any electronic device puts it out. EMF is a type of radiation. You get too much radiation poisoning, you get sick. Okay? In last year, we were working with my daughter's seizures. August, we had 16 a day. That was average. About 504 in a month. September was close. It was about 480 of the month. September 26, 2021, they did some work to that tower. I don't know what they did. I don't know if they added their 5G or took something off or what. I'm not sure. But September 26 was something I connected. That month, she had 500 seizures. October, she had 1,891, almost 2,000 seizures and infantile spasms after this tower got worked on. Okay? I go back to this now. Radiation is known to change structures of cells and other molecules such as water. We are 70% more water. Also, that means when the city allows for antennas to get installed on water towers, that is possibly changing the structure of our drinking water and contaminating it to radiation, just changing the structure. Maybe not, infiltrating the radiation into it, but it's possibly changing the structures of our drinking water. If it can change it in the cells of the mice that they tested on, it can change it in you and I and the water. They say, and this is from the WHO, the World Health Organization, our great leaders, a developing fetus is the most susceptible to health effects from radiation exposure. I have 2 other healthy children. This daughter is the only one conceived in this home. This is another connection I've made because she has a DNA genetic makeup they have never seen. Le Bonheur has done $1 million test on this girl, and they can't find anything. They don't know. Her genes are mutated, and I don't know why. All I know is the good Lord gave me her to stand here with the courage in front of my city leaders and ask that you at least look into it. I'm not saying go bulldoze down the tower. Everybody might say, oh, I don't get a cell phone. I got AT&T, y'all. It's the AT&T tower. I got 1 bar 500 feet away from the tower. It ain't helping me. It's not about faster internet. We got to get back to slower, simple times, y'all. We're getting too fast. That's why I do agree, y'all, not voting on the medical marijuana tonight and thinking about it. I agree 100%. But consider Evelyn's life when you think of that, please. On this cell phone tower stuff, let's get a committee. Let's get somebody. I bought a meter, my own money, $200. They say it's the best handheld one. The manual that comes with it. Look, even this puts off radiation, y'all. Your Wi-Fi at your home, everything puts it off. But when I can turn my whole house off and I still get readings, something's not coming from my home. This meter pegs out at 11.1111. They say anything over 10 is noticeable. I am noticing something. That man right there, almost 80, if not 80 now, he can work days around me in the yard. He's out there 10 hours a day, y'all. Ever since that, he takes a nap every day at 11 to 1. That was not Richard 6 months ago. That was not Richard before September 26th. Something is going on. And I asked, I welcome you. Come to my home. Break bread with me. You can actually sit when people have showed up to my house. They're like, what is that? You can hear a frequency coming from the tower is what I think it's coming from. I can't pinpoint stuff, y'all. That's why I'm asking my leaders. The meter I got, like I said, the manual is telling me my family's getting fried by a microwave. And that's all those towers are. Those towers are 300,000 microwaves or more. Just going, woo. And Hitler used them as a weapon of war. Go back in your history, do your research, look into it. I called energy, I called utilities, I said, can we get EMF testing? Can we get radiation, something tested? I'm experiencing, which my research, I'm not a doctor, EMF comes off, puts off, my symptoms are electrical hypersensitivity, okay? Of those this is every night. I can work great all day in the city of Memphis, come home, and for the 2 hours, feel like, I don't drink, but it feels like a hangover. And I just want to throw up. I'm tired, the dizziness, I just want to sit there in a ball and cringe. And it's not normal. I'm 35 in my prime, and I can't get the daily task done that I'm supposed to as a single income man. If I go down, my family goes down.
Yes, sir.
Normally
there's a 3-minute time limit.
I'll stop.
But because of your situation, the board has really been interested and alarmed in your comments. I would think that Mr. Billy, we would need to get in contact with the people with the cell tower. Is that it?
Yes, sir. I don't know who's out there, Mr. Mayor.
So it is American Tower.
If you would let me finish, please, sir.
Oh,
Thank you. All right, Mr. Jim, do you know who it is? Okay.
No.
Now you can help us out.
American Towers Incorporated, right, Tommy? That's what you did.
AT&T.
American Tower. So AT&T owns the building. They lease it out to, we know T-Mobile that was the latest update, I think. And that's from the cell tower workers on the tower.
That's the ones on September the 26th.
Correct.
2021 was T-Mobile. They're the ones that did that.
Now, that's what the cell people told us. Now, that was the workers. Now, of course, the workers don't get told anything besides go put this up.
All right, sir. Anyone have any questions? Mr. Guy, Alderman Guys.
Not necessarily a question for him. Is there someone within state government that checks on complaints like that? There has to
If
be
I had
an
to
agency.
guess, I would say Public Service Commission, at least to start with.
You know,
To start with and try to track it.
I know there's somebody that comes out and tests for like ham radios and things like that that are causing interference. So there has to be someone we could contact as well as the.
You have any idea, Mr. Box?
No, sir, I don't. There is some signage on the towers up here behind City Hall that has a lot of warnings and things like that on that for that nature of being close to the water tower. So there may be some information on that sign that I could look into.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Young.
You got a pen, you got a piece, write this name down, Brandon Presley.
Brandon.
Presley, just like Elvis.
Gotcha.
No relation.
Thank you.
He's your public service commissioner for the Northern District. He's in Nettleton, Mississippi is where he's from. Call his office in Nettleton. He'll come meet with you. I don't know, he'll have an answer for you.
Well, and that's why I'm here. I'm not here to blame and let's go blow the tower down. Let's get questions. If it's affecting me, there's got to be other people around it.
Contact your U.S. Senator, your Congressman, and your Senator, Roger Wicker, and also Trent Kelly. Contact their offices in Tupelo and Hernando. Somebody will get with you and hopefully get you a direction, and we can follow up with them.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I hope
Mayor.
everything gets better.
Mayor.
Alderman Johnson.
Sir.
Mr. Sons. I think Alderman Johnson wanted to ask you something.
I just have one comment. Thank
Yes,
you
ma'am.
for coming in front of us to let us know what's going on. And don't take our decision to be a little more precautious on this issue as a denial.
Oh, no.
Certainly not from me. I do have 2 daughters who suffer from chronic diseases, one of them being epilepsy. So both of my daughters, too, can benefit from medical marijuana. So don't take our precautions as a denial. Okay, we certainly want to look into it and to be sure of what we're getting into. And my heart goes out to you and your family, because it certainly is a task to watch your child have a seizure and more or less multiple seizures. So my heart goes out to you and your family. And we're going to work on it. Okay, keep praying and keep trusting.
God
It's
is
gonna get
there.
better.
Yeah, I'm telling y'all.
Yeah.
I do like to make one other comment. When we did trials in other medical marijuana states, we went from 40 seizures a day to single-digit numbers. My daughter one day had 8 seizures, y'all. That was because we were trying in a medical marijuana state in Colorado and also Arkansas. So it works.
Thank you, sir.
One more
Mayor.
comment.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Mr. Richard, would you like to say something? Is that be all right, Mayor? Can he say something when he brought him with him? He lives right by the tower.
Do you want to say anything?
Yeah.
You'll need to come up here and give us your name and number and address, please, sir. Because it's not on this sheet I got.
Richard Harrison, I live right
Sir?
next door to him. Richard Harrison,
Yes, sir. And your address is gonna be?
1520 York Haven.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it started probably about 4 months after they installed that new transmitter. I think that was T-Mobile, because I talked to one of the guys that was working on the tower about 2 weeks ago. And I've had dizzy spells. My wife's had headaches. My energy level has dropped 50% from this thing, and I don't know. I have this ringing in my ears. You have that? I talked to my neighbor that lives within 100 feet of the tower. Talked to him today about it, and he said he's got the ringing in his ears. And Dennis across the street, you know Dennis, he and his wife got this ringing, and it's a minute ring, and it don't seem like it's in my ears, it's in my head, and I'm starting to have trouble putting words together. So I didn't have this before. And like I said, my energy levels dropped where I used to get out and work, like he said, in my yard all day long. I can't do it no more. And about 11 o'clock in the mornings, my energy level drops, and I usually take a nap for about 2 hours before I can get up and start doing stuff again. And I didn't have this before. And I know I'm 77 years old, and a friend of mine told me I'm just getting old. I didn't get old overnight in 6 months. So it's concerning. And I appreciate y'all listening to our concerns about it. But there is a problem. I don't know what we can do about it, but I think Chad said it's supposed to be at least 300 yards, 500 yards from a tower like this. So I don't know about that, and I talked to the guy from T-Mobile, and he said this was a low frequency, and Chad's checked it out, and low frequency is worse than the high frequencies. So they got 3 T-Mobile, AT&T, and I don't know what the other one is, but you got 3 transmitters feeding this signals out. So it's got to have an effect. So.
Thank you, sir. I'm
Thank
kind of
you.
like Mr. Chad. I'll be glad when, I wish things would slow back down. Things go too fast nowadays.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Mayor.
Oh,
Thank
yes.
y'all very much
One more
for
question.
coming.
Mayor,
Alderman Dupree.
can I ask, with no offense, how do you administer the marijuana to your child?
So my daughter, she doesn't take anything by mouth. She's lost the will to swallow. She is G-tube fed, so we have a feeding tube in her belly, which now we can't do THC, we do CBD.
Okay.
We're only able to do that in those states while we were tested to see, because I'm thinking about moving, straight up, just being honest. I'm considering moving because of these two issues. And before I move, I had to make sure that it would work. This was before Mississippi voted on it and everything else.
Okay.
So it is an oil from a little droplet, and 2 drops is what helps her.
Okay.
2 drops.
All right. Can I ask a question? If the medical marijuana does pass, does it have to be in smoke form, or can we sell just the oil? That would cut down
something
on
for y'all to discuss. You know, we've
I-
already.
that's why I'm
tonight,
asking.
Yeah, that'd be something for y'all to discuss and bring the committee and bring back before the board.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
One more. It is, because I think Florida, it cannot be combustible. That's the word. It cannot be combustible. As to where you have to light a lighter to light up a joint. It has to be an oil or a topical. So that's one thing, y'all. I mean, that's the first step, you know. Thank you for your time, y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Suggs. Okay, going on down. Mayor Alderman correspondence. The only thing I have is we have the city cleanup this Saturday, starting at 8:30. Assemble here at City Hall till about noon. Ms. Linville, as usual, has done an excellent job. She's even got the entire football team coming, about 50 fellows, but we're going to need all. The more the merrier. Be part of your community, help clean it up. And then after we get back down here, there's going to be pizza for everyone who worked. So please, if you can, if y'all can, spread the word. Be here about 8:30 on Saturday morning. All right. Alderman Young, you have anything, sir?
A couple of items, Mayor, right quick, if I could, please. Mr. Robinson emailed each alderperson a rental code that the committee had looked at and sort of worked and massaged, and we sent it to everybody. If you could please get back with the mayor and Mr. Billy and Mr. Robinson with your thoughts or addresses or whatever real soon before the next meeting. If there's some things you want to see changed or some questions you may have, if you'll get them through Mr. Billy and the mayor, maybe the committee can get this so we can get this passed, as well as the blight removal that Mr. Campbell and Mr. Jim and the mayor have been working on. That's going to be part of the bill, of the ordinance. So if y'all could get that, and please get that done, the committee would appreciate it so we can get moving on this, get our city cleaned up. That's all I have, sir.
Alderman Dupree, you have anything, sir?
No, sir.
Alderman Johnson.
Yes, sir. I want to challenge everyone. We're in the process of starting an Optimist Club here in Horn Lake. As most of you know, I'm really big on education. Surprise, right? Horn Lake has a problem right now with our testing scores. Within the schools, COVID has really put us behind a lot. And we're just not performing like we used to. So there is an Optimist Club in the works, and the Optimist Club encourages students, builds them up, and gives leadership. It's a volunteer organization. It is a $30 membership fee, but scholarships go to our children, and that is something that is certainly a need here in Horn Lake. Also, on that same note, Horn Lake Intermediate is having a HLIS Eagle testing parade to cheer the children on right before testing, to get them encouraged with state testing so that we may be able to get those scores a little higher and excite the children. So you are more than welcome to join us from a distance. The kids are just going to walk around the school. If you want to make signs and cheer to come out, that will be so well worth it. And if it's not Horn Lake Intermediate School that you spend time in, I challenge you to go to a school. of your relative, your niece, grandchild. Go to their school, and even if you don't have those family members who are in school, it is so worthwhile to volunteer there. That's all I have, Mayor.
What day is the parade?
The parade is on April 11th. It begins at 9:00 a.m. The more, the merrier.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Bostic.
Yes, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and it was exciting to have the citizens' remarks and people come out and speak to us about issues that's concerning them and giving us an opportunity as a board to be able to address those things. And I just want to encourage the citizens of the community to do that, to get in contact with your alderman if you have any issues or concerns. And if you don't feel like you're getting resolved, you could come up here and speak to the whole board. And also, I'd like to wish everybody a happy Easter, which will be coming up here soon. And I just want everybody to stay safe and enjoy their time at Easter.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Geis, you have anything, sir?
No, sir.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Yes, sir, I got one thing. Thank the people for voting for the hotel motel tax that we got.
Amen.
A couple of our people voted against it. So, remember that when you do your election. I'm tickled pink. It helps every organization in the Horn Lake area and outside the Horn Lake area. Like we bought those, we call them the tubers. Yeah. We bought tubers for the high school that they couldn't have got unless we did it through the money that we got from the hotel tax, which doesn't cost a penny to any citizen. All it does is come from the hotel and pays us to give out money to people in these charities and stuff. And I was fired up about it. I really am. That's what I say, free money tax. So thank y'all very much, and remember talking to your elected officials. And if you have anything, call your alderman. Chad called me, and I said, I don't know much about it, but we'll get to it if you come to the meeting. So thank y'all for coming.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Klein, you have anything, sir?
No, sir.
All right. Chief Brown, you have anything, sir?
No, sir, I don't, Mayor.
Anybody have questions, comments for Chief Brown? Mr. Box, you have anything, sir?
No, sir, I don't.
Anyone have questions, comments for Mr. Box? Alderman Dupree.
I want to go back to the chief, if that's okay.
Yes, sir.
Your new code enforcement officer?
Yes, sir.
I forget her name. What's her name?
Belinda?
Belinda. I met her the other day, and she's very outgoing, and she's on top of things. I appreciate her.
It depends which one, Jessica or Belinda?
Jessica.
Jessica.
It's Jessica.
Yeah. Belinda started yesterday. Jessica's been doing a really good job.
Yeah, she has. I've noticed some stuff going on. Yes, I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mayor.
Sir.
I have one thing for the chief too. You can pass it on. We got code people now, right? So we need to start getting these people quit parking in the yard. It looks like a pig pen. We had to put down, people had to put side drives with concrete and stuff. You go down 2-line road and you look out through there, you don't have to look far, and you'll find a pig pen wherever you look. So
Yes, sir.
I think that'll help dress up our city a little bit.
They're working on it. Yes, sir.
I think, I was speaking to a chief today. I think one of the new code officers will start Monday because she's at Paris Island watching what, a cousin or brother?
Her brother.
Graduate from the Marines. And the other lady just started what?
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yes,
Okay. So I was concerned like you, Alderman, where's things going? And he explained to me. Okay. Chief Limble, you have anything for the board, sir?
I do not.
Anyone have questions, comments? Alderman Young.
Did you get my bell?
We ain't got the truck yet.
Oh.
Anyone else? Mr. Coleman, you have anything for the board?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Board. I don't have anything tonight, sir.
Anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. Coleman? Alderman Young.
Drew, your Easter egg thing was absolutely fantastic. It went off really well. I thought that was really well played. It was really nice. I did not realize that the mayor was the Easter bunny. But it worked out really well. Nobody else knew it either. And I hope they found all the eggs, because if not, about next month, you'll be able to find them without any problem.
Thank you, Alderman. Yes, they found the eggs pretty quick. It took them maybe 2 seconds. Thank you for coming out.
I hate to have to publicly correct Alderman Young, but I was not the Easter Bunny. I want whoever it was to get full credit. And again, it was a great event, and it seemed like it was enjoyed by all. Anybody else have questions for Mr. Drew?
I do, Mayor.
Alderman Dupree.
Choctaw Park, can you take a look at that? I got several calls this week about that.
Yes, sir, I'll take a look at it.
Appreciate it.
Did you have something, sir?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about the trees down over here off Hurt Road at James Walthall Park. There's 2 of them down over there and have been since the ice storm. Thank you, Alderman. We've cut up several trees in that park. They should be piled up, just waiting for pickup. There's one still just laying over on the ground, uprooted there, pointing towards Meadowbrook before you get to Hurt. You can't miss it. Huge. I just didn't know if you was going to get to it.
Yes, sir. We'll get to it. I know exactly what you're talking about.
All right.
Anyone else? Mr. Malavasi, you have anything for the board, sir?
Yeah, Mayor, a couple of things. First of all, just a quick update on the filter project for Twin Lakes well. We are in design there, and we are presently gathering some more data from the well, such as temperature and that kind of stuff, the water temperature, so that we can better design the backwash system. And so Mr. Box is getting us that information, but looks like we're probably on schedule to get those final drawings to the city for review, or to the Public Works for review sometime around the 1st of July. And after that, once he approves it or the city approves it, then we can move forward with bidding. The other item is, if there's no comments or questions about that, the other, okay.
Have you started the bidding process? Have you started the bidding process?
No, sir. That won't be till probably after July, middle of July, maybe end of July before we start that.
Okay.
Because we're still in design.
All right. One more thing.
Alderman Dupree.
Did you and, I should have asked Mr. Box this, but you and Mr. Box get together about, I think it's 4248 or 4842 Nell Road, but that guy's driveway is falling in or caving in?
Nell Road.
It's across from Nicole's place?
Yes, we did, and I think we talked about that, kind of what needs to be done, and I think one of the things we want to try to do ultimately is get it on the EWP list. It's got quite a bit of erosion around that box culvert, so we're going to try to get it on the EWP list to maybe get some funding to do that work. In the meantime, there are a couple of spots out there that might need attention before that, and I think maybe Public Works can handle that.
He's put a lot of money in it himself just to try to fix it.
Yes, and I think we've spoken to the owner a couple of times. I know Mr. Box has.
Okay. If you would just keep him updated with that, because he emailed me today asking me about it.
We'll do. We'll see what we can do temporarily right now. Put something in there to kind of keep things getting any worse.
All right. Thank you, sir.
And the other item I have, Mayor, is before you is the pavement management plan that we want to present tonight, if we could. So I'm going to step up to this mic.
Yes, sir, please.
I say we because I have with me tonight Mr. Chris Howey. He's from our office here in South Haven, one of our engineers. Been putting in quite a bit of work on this project also. He's on the keyboard. I'll be doing vocals, but I'm not going to be singing. All right, so we've been talking about this for quite a few months now as far as pavement management. And tonight, I call this a preliminary plan because for no other reason other than the fact that we have not gotten to the point where we know exactly kind of what the budget plan will be and the time frame for that budget. So that's kind of where we're headed with this tonight. So keep that in the back of your mind. Ultimately, we need to know, how much funding is the city able to provide to push this project forward or push this program forward, the plan forward. Looking at that street there, that's one of the, I wish all our streets were like that, obviously, but that's a brand new street, obviously, and that's that's Horn Lake Road that we just did. And right now, the city, this is a major asset for the city. You've got 125 or so center line miles of roadway, and that equates to about a 150 million plus asset. So it behooves us, the city, to take care of that asset. And basically, what we're going to show you this plan is to optimize the funding that we spend on it, whether it be $1 or $1 million, whatever it might be. We want to make sure that we do it with the highest benefit cost ratio. And that's what our plan will hopefully do for us over the next few years. So one of the first things we look at when we're talking about pavement, this graph here, I think we've seen, some of you guys have seen before when I presented several months ago, but this basically is what we call a deterioration curve. And as you see on the left side, I don't know if you can see it well enough, but what this is excellent pavement down to very poor pavement, or on the right side, it's called PCI, which is Pavement Condition Index. It goes from 100 down to 0. 100 being what you saw on the front cover, down to 0, which is a completely failed street. On the bottom of the graph is time. And so typically you have about a 25-year lifespan for pavement. And so as you can see, over the first few years, 15 years or so, the deterioration is rather mild. But as you get beyond 15 years, it drops off considerably. And so the whole concept, the premise of this plan basically is fed off of the backbone of this degradation curve, which basically says we need to feed or fix the roads early on. Go to the next slide. The reason being is because over the first 15 years, your pavement degrades 40%. Over the next 2.5 years, it degrades another 40%. So you can see how it accelerates, and we need to capture it before it gets into the bad section. So next slide. The way you do that is basically by what we call preventive maintenance. There's several different types of preventive maintenance that we'll kind of look at real quickly here in a minute. But what you do is, once it gets down to this point, before it drops off the curve there, you hit it with preventive maintenance and pushes it back up to higher PCI. And then a few more years, you keep that going. And these may be different types of preservation, but ultimately what you're trying to do is keep it above this, this 75 to 80 PCI mark. So next slide. So the first thing we have to do is determine what is the PCI, what is the condition of our streets. And we did that basically. You probably saw this van running around town several months ago, but basically that van is automated to pick up all the distresses in the street, and it covered every street in the city that we are, responsible for maintenance on. Didn't pick up any parking lots or paving that way, but we picked up all the streets, about 120 miles of centerline street. And so, like I said, it picks up all the distresses. It has laser, guidance on this thing, or laser detection on this thing. It has videos. It has GIS on it. So we use that to collect the data with. Next slide. And this is basically a slide that indicates kind of what we get from this ARAN system, or from the data collection system. And basically, you see here, there's a video that we can show. And then over here, it tells you exactly where you are on what street. And we can actually play this video, and it'll move, as it moves along here, and show you that, show you the information. And over here on the right side, you'll see the green marks every so often. So those are the distresses it picks up, whether it be alligator cracking, longitudinal cracking, transverse cracking, whatever it may be. And this ARAN operates off a software they call iVision. And we'll go to the next, let's actually go to that site, the iVision software. This iVision software is something that you guys at City Hall have access to. We can give you a log-on password and stuff, and anybody up here can look at it and log on. We'll probably have that set up at City Hall somehow, so get with our IT guys and talk about that. But you do have access to that, and if you look at the iVision software, you got that up?
Yeah, it's not showing right now.
Okay. But anyway, I just wanted to show you basically, it would actually show you the actual city streets, and I could give you kind of a look at some of a good street and a bad street, and kind of show you the difference. But if you're having trouble getting that, that's okay, Chris. We can go to the next slide. But that's a system that we use to collect every bit of the data throughout town, and it didn't take but maybe a week or two to do that. He can go speed limit and pick up that information. So the next slides basically are pavement maintenance and rehabilitation slides, which basically shows what we talked about, what kind of pavement maintenance or rehab are we going to use. And what we did here was basically we talked to a lot of the general local contractors, made sure, number one, that we had people in the area that could do this, and also get some cost data from them. So with that, we came up with these preservation techniques and rehab techniques. 1 through 6, I think, is basically preservation. The first one is crack treatment. Did I lose you, Chris?
Yeah.
Is it okay? All right. So the first one is crack treatments. You can follow along on your handout there, and basically that's just prevents minor cracking, whatever minor cracking you have, it keeps the water from getting in and coming there, and that's the cheapest way and the most cost-effective way to get a head start on any kind of pavement distress, because that's usually the first thing that happens, some kind of cracking. And that's a very cheap method of repair. Rejuvenator, fog seal, that's another method that we use, and all of these are pretty much, will accomplish almost the same thing, but rejuvenator basically puts back some of the flexibility in the pavement so that, when it's oxidized, the sun hits it oxidized, and you add more flexibility to it, it keeps it from cracking. And so these first 6 are basically similar in nature, but they're used in somewhat different, situations. So that's what the information from the data that we've collected helps us do. The next one is chip seal. I'm sure everybody's heard of a chip seal. Basically, put down the emulsified asphalt and then come back and put rocks on top of it and compact it. That's a very efficient way of doing it and getting you some additional years, something like 6 to 7 years additional life in that for chip seal. Then there's a scrub seal, very similar to a chip seal, except the brushes are angled so that they fill in the cracks a little bit better. Same thing, 6 or 7 years. Then that depends. If you've got a lot of cracking, then we'll probably use a scrub seal. Microsurfacing, basically the same type of thing, just a little bit more structurally sound and fills in ruts. Cape seal, that's basically a double layer type restoration that adds about 6 to 8 years. And then we get into what I'm calling the rehab methods. Number 7 is ultra thin HMA. That's about a 3/4 inch asphalt overlay. And if you've ever been out here on Tulane, that's what we did on Tulane about 10 or 12 years ago. So you can see it's held up fairly well. You just have to make sure it's put on the right, surface. And that can give you 8 to 10 years, which, like I said, this was out here was done probably, I don't know when the era funds came out, but that was probably 10 or 12 years ago. And then the next method everybody knows about is conventional hot mix asphalt, which is what you see typically, putting down 1.5 to 3 inches of asphalt overlay. We're getting into rehab and a lot of cost right now. And then the last method is full depth reclamation, which basically, if anybody's been over to Holly Ridge, where Alderman Geis lives, you can see that. And what we do there is we mill up the existing asphalt, add some cement to it, compact it back down, and that becomes your base, and then you go back over with 3 inches of asphalt. And it's almost like reconstruction, but it's a little bit cheaper than going in there and just doing the whole road over, tearing it out and doing it over. So we utilize some of the materials and gives us a good base. All right, so then what we do is we take all this data that we've got as far as, the distresses in the PCI ratings, the information on what type of rehab you're going to do, the cost for that, and we put it into a program management software, which is Cartograph. And Cartograph is a very powerful asset management program. And Chris, can you get that up? I'm going to show you another. But this program here will also be available to you guys, and it'll be very handy once we get into the meat of this thing and start developing projects. You can actually go on this online here, look at it, and see where we are and what we're doing in certain areas. Having a little trouble with it tonight, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll wait just a second. That it? Okay. So what we did was we ran some scenarios, okay, not knowing how much the city wanted to budget. We said, okay, let's play with this. I talked to Jim, and we kind of got some ideas. And so we started looking at it. And if you look at the first slide, this is what we call unlimited budget. Santa came tomorrow and gave us an unlimited budget to do this. This is what it would cost to get your streets up to a 98. Okay, $42 million. You see that number up the top left there? $42 million.
He didn't talk to me about that.
I didn't have to. I knew this was unrealistic. This is obviously unrealistic. So we looked at this just to give you kind of a bracket the problem and kind of show you where we are. But it takes it up to a 98 right there. And so down here, what this represents is the different types of restoration or rehab that we're doing. And so for each year 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, it tells you what type of methods we're going to apply to that pavement for those 5 years. Okay, so unlimited budget is obviously not a option, I wouldn't think. So if you go down, Chris, if you go down and show them, can you show them the map that goes with this? Okay, this right here represents years 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and it tells you which roads are going to be operated on, and by the color code here, it tells you what type of rehab it's going to have or what type of repair is going to be there. That's if you had an unlimited budget. Obviously, you can see it's operating on every street in town. But just to give you an idea, once we get into the other scenarios, you'll have the same type map, and it'll show you the same information for each year. All right, so the next scenario we looked at, since Jim wouldn't approve that $42 million, is do nothing, okay? If you do nothing, you end up going from an existing 48 PCI, which where your roads are now, a 48 PCI, down to 34. So you end up losing, 14 in your PCI rate. So that was just to give you, like I said, bracket the problem here. The next one, if we maintain the current OCI or PCI, if we maintain that at 48 over a 5-year period, what would that cost? There it is, $10,500,000. And that's for 5 years. It keeps you at 48. You start at 48, you end up at 48. All right, the next scenario, we're looking at $3 million a year. $3 million a year. And it goes, that's obviously $15 million. And each year, it's spending about $3 million. And it takes you from a 48 to a 58. Now, that's a big increase in PCI. If you go from 48 to 58, you're going to see a major change in your streets. People are going to look at it and say, man, y'all are really getting after it. And and like I said, anything above when you start getting close to 60, you probably won't be getting a whole lot of phone calls or complaints, okay? So the next thing we looked at, so that's $3 million over 5 years. The next thing we looked at was some other options as far as budget, and we went to $5 million for the first year. Is that right? $5 million for the first year, and then $2 million thereafter. And that goes from a 48 to a 56. So you don't get quite the change in the OCI or PCI, but you're spending, just $13,000 doing it that way. And then $3 million a year for 10 years. Okay, look at that one. Obviously, you're spending $30 million over 10 years, but you're going from a 48 to a 66. Okay, and you guys will probably have the best streets in the county if we do that, or some of the best streets in the county if an average of 66. All right, so the next slides just it's kind of a backup, and for you guys to have and kind of look at. But this shows basically the unlimited budget we talked about and how much it would spend each year if you did that, going from 47 to 97. Do nothing, it goes from 47 down to what, 34? Okay, and then maintain current OCI, it costs you a total of $10,500,000, and that's to maintain it over 5 years at the same level. The next scenario is the $3 million for 5 years. It goes from 47 or 48 to 58. And then $5 million first year, $2 million remaining, 48 to 55, 56. So those are the scenarios we looked at. And this is just a graph of that data we got. So this is basically the unlimited budget. You'll see the first year it jumps way up. It spent like $15 million that first year, and it goes out to 98. Our present day streets are at this level here, that purple. That's a 48. Okay, that's where you are. If you went to I can't read that. If you went to the $3 million a year, that is the yellow line right there. And you can see that actually trends upward pretty good from that purple. So you can see that you're gaining about 10 PCI points, or 8 PCI points. So this is just a graph to give you a summary of the scenario that we worked on. And I wanted to show you too, Chris, can you find that graph with the present conditions of the streets? It shows the mileage. What we looked at too, one thing we looked at was, conditions of your streets. A lot of your streets basically are at a 46 or whatever PCI rating. A lot of your streets are below that. You got probably twice the number of streets that need milling and overlaying type work as you do above that line that will require preservation, that we call it. So on a lot of these scenarios, it starts out and it does a lot. Here's what I was talking about. For instance, this is your PCI ratings over here, 0 to 100, and you got these ranges in increments of 10, all the way up here. This is the mileages of streets that you have in each one of those PCI areas, and you see up here from 60 to 70, you got 4 miles. 70 to 80, you got 2 miles. 80 to 90, you got 2.2. 90 to 100, you got 13. Reason being, we just did a $6 million bond issue to do streets, and it took care of about 10 miles of your streets. So that's why you got 13 miles up in that range. But you see the rest of this in the red is basically going to require some type of almost ultra thin overlay or milling and overlay. And so what I'm saying is once we start the process of doing projects, we're gonna have to spend quite a bit of money on the milling and overlay portion, because otherwise we don't have streets to maintain, you know what I'm saying? So it's gonna be some of that, but we're still going to spend money up in this area. We're gonna spend money to maintain that, but we're gonna pick this up as we go, so to speak. And the more you commit to the budget, the quicker that can happen, or the better off we'll be down here in these roads, because these are going to get neglected for the first few years. And here's the thing, guys, that we need to make sure we educate the public on is that once we start this, like the first few years, we could be doing, and we want to do this. We have to do this for preservation. We could be doing a street that's just going to require a scrub seal over here, and the neighbor over here, the neighbor over on the other side or close by could have a street that ranks down in here in the bottom that we're not even going to touch. Well, guess what you're going to get? A phone call saying, hey, y'all over there working on their street, look at mine. Well, I understand that, but the deal is, if we're going to follow this plan and we're going to get the best bang for the buck for our money, then we've got to follow this plan per se. And that's the only way that you can spend your money the most and optimize it the best. So that's one thing that we've got to, I guess, educate the public on for sure, because I can see that happening. And I don't know, there's no way around that. Like I said, because if you deviate from it, you're not going to get the results at the end. Okay. So with that said, I'll take any questions. But the main thing is for us to move forward. I just hope that this gives you enough tool or information to decide how you want, what level of funding you guys want to maybe look at. Because at that point we can go ahead and final your plan, and you can have that in house to look at, and it'll show you the 5-year capital plan that we're proposing, along with the cost and where, when, and that those repairs will take place over that 5-year period. Yes, sir.
If we do approve one part of this plan and getting it started, you'll be in full charge of what needs to be done, or will we, as aldermen, be able to pick and choose and have phases 1, 2, 3, and 4 like we did before?
Well, once we move forward and we get our plan, we have to pretty much stay with that plan without deviating. Now, we can. There's nothing that says we can't deviate. But all I'm saying is, if you deviate, you could potentially lose the best value, so to speak, of spending your money.
No, I understand. I just wanted to know if we were going to do it like in phases like that. I understand we need to stay in a plan, and there's some that need to be done worse than others, and I understand all of that. So we just didn't. Just trying to figure out what kind of plan that would be sitting in place to let the public know how this is going to go down.
Right. So once we get year one, let's say we get to year one, we're going to develop projects out of year one that this management program tells us, okay, that we come up with. We'll develop those projects, and then we'll have a map, and it'll show you in year one everywhere that's going to be operated on as far as maintenance. And so that could be given to the public to show them exactly what's going to be done. So, beyond that, what we'd probably do is we wouldn't, if you do the $3 million, for instance, first year, you're going to have probably at least a couple of contractors. So we'd have 2 contracts going at the same time, 2 contractors going at the same time. And that's the way you work through that, and to get it done within that first year, because you've got to get it done within a year's time frame. Otherwise, the degradation of the streets catch up with you. You have to stay ahead of it.
I just see that. When's my street going to get done?
There's going to be a lot of that, and that's why I'm telling you we've got to do education.
Anyone? Alderman Klein.
And you had showed in the 5-year plan, right? But this can be laid out into a 10-year plan.
Yes, sir.
But in those 5 years, the 125 miles, center lane miles will be taken care of. And what do you have in the single lane? 200 and something miles?
Oh, you're talking about for lane miles? We have about
Lane
265 lane miles.
All right,
Yes,
so
sir.
when we're talking about a 5-year plan or a 9-year plan, you're covering every one of those streets and starting over?
No, sir.
If you go with a 9-year plan, or would it be?
Not necessarily. When you say touching every street, not necessarily. If it just depends on how much you spend, over that 5 or 10 year period, because we can't. If you operate on every street, you're going to end up spending at least 40 million, 42
Right.
million.
Right, that was the perfect scenario.
Right, and if you spread it out, it's going to be more than that, obviously, because we're getting degradation as we go.
All right,
The
and
42
so-
million represents doing it for 1 year.
Right, so it's very important that once we set this up and agree that we gotta stick with it, it's kinda like building a house, you start changing up. Change orders and things of that nature, the cost goes up. I'm looking at it as somewhere down the road, our cost is gonna start going down because we're staying on top of it and our streets are staying in better shape, so therefore we're not having to spend as much.
Yes, sir, you are correct, because if you look at the $3 million plan for 10 years, it actually went up to 66. And basically, as you move out, you could probably drop that 3 million down to 2 and be, carried on out and have your street stay in a 66,
This is something we've been needing in order to be able to put it in a budget, because that'd be, I would think, one of the first things we're gonna do once we decide is how much we're needing to allocate, and that would have to go into the October budget?
Yes.
And which means you wouldn't be able to get started till after October, right?
Right.
Okay, now, one more question. If we just said, all right, let's just maintain the streets the way they are, at the shape they're in, which is what, a 46 or 47 point?
48.
Where we're at right now?
48.
48?
Something like that.
What does that cost if we just said, hey, let's just try to maintain it and don't worry about getting better? That's gonna run us still
About $2 million a year.
about $2 million a year.
10.5 million over a 5-year period, yeah.
Just to maintain fair and poor streets.
Yeah.
So we need to be looking at 3 million probably a year.
If you want to, on that uptick, if you want to get your PCI on
Yes.
an uptick, you've got to go more than 2 million. That's what that
Gotcha.
tells you.
All right,
Yes, sir.
thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mayor.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Vince, in all this figuring and stuff, have y'all figured up, in case the oil price like they are now going sky high, will this change this price quite a bit, or are you kind of floating in there?
I got my crystal ball out last night and looked at it and rubbed it real good. And it looks like, now, to answer your question, we did put some inflation numbers in there of about, but it was 5%. I don't know. It may be, obviously, it could be more than that from what we've seen in the past. I'm hoping that we've gotten a little bit closer to the plateau of this thing. But in talking with contractors, we got the present day cost.
Yeah.
So it's not like we got 2 years ago and we 20% higher now.
Put a little extra, then
Yeah.
that'd be gone real quick.
And it wouldn't hurt. We could need to consider that if to make sure that we do have enough. But
Because maybe it'll go down one of these days. We
Ah.
all get electric cars.
maybe.
One more thing, Mayor.
Alderman Klein.
So, if an individual calls us and says, well, when are they gonna work on my street? We should be able to pull this up and look over the 5-year plan, and if their streets in particular, we'll be able to tell them what year that
Yes,
they're
sir.
gonna be worked on.
Pretty close. Now, let me say this is a plan. This is a plan, and so when we give you the final document, it's still a plan, obviously. And the reason I say that is because we get the map that you saw is basically a theoretical map. It's the best case scenario. And it may go out there and do a preservation method for this block, and it may do something different for this block and different for that. We're not gonna get 3 contractors out there, different contractors, and do that segment. We're gonna change it. So that little bit's gonna change, and that's the plan I'm talking about that may get changed a little bit, plus the one that Alderman wants.
I got your phone number, give it to you.
And by the way, we can, if we wanna look at it ward by ward and say we're gonna spend $2 million, $3 million this year, we're gonna spend like $750 in each one or whatever, we can look at it that way. But it's not the most effective, but we can do it that way.
Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Vince? Mr. Vince, thank you for a most thorough plan and all the work you've gone into in your company to help us save some money here in the city and to give our citizens good roads.
Yes, sir.
Because just like you said, roads are an economic investment.
Yes, sir.
They definitely are.
They are, and very expensive to maintain if it's not done.
Yes.
With a budget.
And we've gone down that road.
And may I add one other thing, Mayor, is speaking of that, as we move forward with this, I've thought about maybe looking at, I've talked to Jim a little bit about this, but you know, there's a portion of your budget that you spend each year in public works, I think. We may want to look at that a little bit closer and say, you know, how we need to spend that rather than just going out and doing potholes with coal mix or whatever that lasts 3 weeks, depending on the weather. Look at that as being part of our crack seal, and we can do potholes, but let's do them with hot mix and cut it out right and install it with, you know, a contractor that can get it done, and it'll be just like a 10, 15-year pavement then.
Right,
You know?
you might cutting it out.
Yes, sir.
Not mixing it in there.
Yes, sir. And so we could have like term bid contracts or something like that so he gets a call for 15 potholes, he picks up the phone, calls the contractor, says, okay, we got 15, come get them, you know.
Mayor?
Mr. Robinson.
Unfortunately, there's only 200,000 in that line item every year. But I did want to talk real quickly on Vince and I have been talking about this, and since January, I've probably met with Nick Shore 3 times on this with government consulting, and we've thrown out a few things. And I got him information on all of our debt service and the length of our debt service, our ad valorem, and kind of how ad valorem changes each year, and how much we gain each year from ad valorem, and got him all that information. And he's actually working on a scenario that's about $32 million. It's $5 million the first year, and then $3 million the next 9 years. So that's $32 million. And he's also taken an effect, because I told him that we're not at the 100% mark on the internet sales. You know, we still have another bump to where we're going to get more internet sales funds. And right now we get $1 million a year. I'm anticipating we're probably going to be about $1.5 million each year. So he's going to work that into the scenario. So, I mean, that $32 million would actually go down to $27 million if you take that $1.5 million out, that we could use that for the streets. So we could get the same amount for $32 million and do it with $27 million of, I guess, borrowed funds. We'd have $5 million over 10 years that we'd be getting in from the internet sales. So that one estimate that he did, that Vince did in here, that takes us up to that 66 PCI, that would be more that scenario. If we looked at that 32 million, it may go even above that, because 32 million would go a little higher than his. So we could be closer to 70 PCI. But he's going to look at that, and he was going to try to have it for this meeting to see how that would work financially. But he will have that in the next few weeks, and hopefully we can bring that to you. because he's taken into effect. I showed him that we've got a bond rolling off 22, 23, 24. So he's going to take those bonds out and look at what this debt would do, and he doesn't think it's going to pass us past that threshold. Just if we can maintain that.
Thank you for the excellent work you've done, seeing how the finance is. That's amazing. Thank you, sir. Anyone else have any questions or comments? All right, Mr. Vince, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chad, do you have anything for the board, sir?
No, Mr. Mayor, I do not.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Chad?
One thing, Mayor.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Over there, Miss Hamilton's on 51 Highway, where they parking all them trucks, has that been resolved yet?
Oh. Yeah, we've given the property owner there on Highway 51 a deadline of next week. I don't remember if I think it's through next Tuesday, so theoretically the trucks are supposed to be gone by Tuesday. We'll see what happens. I go by there every night on the way home, and nothing's happened. It appears to have happened as of yet. And I don't think we're going to take if they're still there, I'm probably not going to take the approach of like impounding them. I don't know where we're going to take 15 or 20 semi-trucks. We'll probably just go through legal channels and find the owner through like district court. That'd probably be the route to go there. But he'd suggested that date. I told him we need a date, and he gave me that date. Something that the city, I think, needs to consider. When I spoke to Mr. Cates on this the other day, is because he has connections and he knows people or whatever, is that to try to find somebody in town to develop a place to park the trucks legally. Not illegally. Legally. I want to make sure that was clear. So they're not parked in neighborhoods, they're not parked in places in town that they don't have the correct zoning and that sort of thing. So right now, to park the trucks, it would need M1 zoning plus a conditional use permit. So it would take some time to get that accomplished or whatever. But we don't really seem to have that scenario. So if he moves the trucks, if he moves them anywhere in town, they're going to be illegal wherever they go. So I don't want to get into, I think we're already into a scenario where we just could be chasing people around town and we don't really have a place for them to go legally in the long term.
I think every one of us up here, Mr. Chad, be the first to acknowledge this country owes a great deal of debt to our truck drivers, and we still owe it. And these people are operating legally on the trucks. The problem is they don't have a safe place to park. When did we start? In the fall? Mr. Robinson, I don't think Mr. Chad was here. Was in the fall we were asking this gentleman to get his hard surface?
Yes, he did come in before that, and he determined that he would not be able to, financially, he wouldn't be able to do that hard surface. So that's he just asked for time to get the word out to those truck drivers.
Well, at first he was thinking about doing it. I had the impression. So we extended the time, and then he decided not to do it. So I just want to clear that up before everybody starts talking about that we don't take into consideration the hard work and the problems our 18-wheeler drivers face. We do. I wish there was something we could do about it, but it's got to be. It's got to be paved. All right. Did you have anything else, Mr. Chad? Anybody else have any questions? Alderman Dupree.
Thank you, Chad, for setting up that meeting that we had with GXO the other day, last Friday. I got your email about their part. Did you get with Vance and Mr. Box about our part yet?
No, I'm going to talk to him tonight.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. That's all,
Thank you,
man.
sir. Mr. Robinson, do you have anything for the board?
The only other thing I had was, and I didn't get it in a report to you because I'm trying to figure out if there is a discrepancy, but we did get the ad valorem from the county, and it was over $2 million, $2.1 million. So you'll see that next time in your financials. That does put us at a lot bigger increase than this time last year. So I've just got to figure out their report is showing less than I'm showing. So I just want to make sure that we get everything that is actually in their report. So I've just got to get with the county on that. But it is 2.1 million. So that's a good amount for ad valorem.
Well, thank you for the good news. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Robinson? All right. Mr. Campbell, you have anything, sir?
I do not, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Campbell? Okay, at this time, do we have a motion to go into closed determination?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
I make a motion to go into closed determination.
We have a motion by Alderman Geis. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Second by Alderman Bostic. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please, Mr. Robinson.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye. Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Ladies and gentlemen, if you will excuse us a moment, please.
Hey, Shane, what's going on?
I didn't know the length of the bed, because I've seen small records, you know, toys and stuff, they don't have that long bed. Strictly does hold 2 holes. So I just didn't know how far they stated length.
There used to be one right there on the back side. Did you not see one back there?
But at nighttime, I'll get beep, 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 you know. As soon as there's a red call, it's beep, 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 and it goes another beep, beep, and it's like waking up everybody.
Nick will come back and go with the 10-year, 30 something.
I'm sure you got a mini of them.
Or these, if we start jumping away from these.
You did what? Oh, it went back up.
As soon as Nick gets his thing, I hope.
Okay. All right, so you don't need to operate that thing, so if you get a call or something, you need to let me know.
That's a good job, man.
We'll have to have a check for somebody look at that in the morning.
Oh, I see.
You just happen to be the lucky guy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So if you get something like that, if you get a main something back up or something like that, just let me know. I'll get a hold of Upchurch or somebody right now. Yeah, yeah. Just go ahead and give me a call. Just let me know what you're doing. All right. All right. Appreciate you. Bye.
No, it doesn't sound like they've changed plans on me.
I'm still available, just $12 an hour. That's all I'm gonna do. He says he's available $12 an hour. Just phone him.
He don't have to, he won't track anything, but that's all I do, where I'm sitting down and driving and work for you, him, that's all I do, $12 an hour, nothing else, I don't care. That's it, that's unselected. And his wife told me I can't be selective. That's what she told me, you can't be selective.
Yeah, one minute you might be chopping the garden, the next minute you might be
sir.
picking the garden.
I will be on a bulldozer or tractor, that's it.
Where did you learn how to drive all this stuff?
I had a 120-acre farm in McHenry, Illinois, and I did contract. I had a 72-foot, 150-foot pole barn, all full of brand-new equipment, $250,000. No farmer in McHenry County had what I had, and they were farming thousands of acres. I just had fun. 12 years of that, having fun.
That's the reason you want $12 an hour. $1 an hour for every year you had fun.
And you know where I did contract plowing too. I had a 150-horse case tractor, a 6-bottom plow, and I had, because I ran flyouts in Chicago Bear, I set a stop clock. It took 5 minutes. I'd set that clock, go to sleep at the tractor. God, I hope it never went up. And then it would go off the other end. And I'd turn around and go back. And I went to sleep all night plowing. Man, I plowed that deep, that front wheel would stay in there. Set the clock and sleep.
Customer service.
Yeah.
Who's that?
I don't think that woman happened.
Yeah, she's the customer service.
And I can't feel it back.
Yeah.
150 horse. I was pulling 6 18 automatic trip plows
The
behind.
job description was already
Nothing
changed
stopped me.
back 2-4 minutes ago.
I had every farmer angry because I was farming technically 120 acres. I had all this equipment, they were farming thousands, and nobody had equipment like me.
That when she's taking over.
And when I got divorced, she took it all.
I know I see her up there.
I didn't get it.
Oh, man.
That was old man. We were married 26 years and no kids. 26 years and no kids. And when we got divorced, she took everything. Wow. I mean, that was, yes.
You girls didn't they need a help.
26 years, man.
You know, her mama works for the county.
Oh, yeah. Those were good old days.
County administration.
But man, I love to be on the piece of equipment. I just love.
Talking about, we only have 200.
What about the tract equipment?
What now?
The tract equipment, the dozer.
No, I can drive, I even drove a Steiger, farmer had me do his 1,000 acre. I drove one of those Steigers, it's got
2 wheels of truck looking glued in 20-foot disc. Well, I told that's a house and house. That's how. Steiger with doing the front, doing the back, doing the middle. It's all electronic. There you just set there you don't use it. I was one of the little suckers too. But I never drove a tractor. But skids for load, I had a case, the biggest one they built, my farm, and all I needed was an inch with the bucket. I had forks in the fork. If I had an inch on the side, an inch on the side, I could go anywhere in the canopy, clean it up, never touch a piece of wood. I was that good. I had a 32-foot trailer I pulled anywhere I could get in. Found out I couldn't go.
That's what I'm saying. There's gonna be a time.
32-foot trailer. Even if I got in, I could get out. That's why I didn't worry where I went. No matter where I went, I could get back.
What pretty much is gonna have to do is,
Yes.
I'm gonna pretty much have to.
I just
love what we're doing, but add another layer to where it's all done.
As long as it's got an engine and a seat, I can ride. I'll try. Well, you got some motors over there, you got rotaries.
Oh, yeah, the zero turn.
You have no way to. And you got zero turn. It's nothing. Carry 3 rotary motors hooked together behind the tractor. Don't you have some of those rotary motors hooked together, 3 of them?
Just on that Kubota is all we got. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, that attached to it.
Well, I thought that, well, anyway, it doesn't matter. When it comes to equipment, I can literally drive anything. I don't tear it up. I don't
Especially when you get a contractor.
I don't repair hook shocks. I don't tear them up.
And fix them.
I don't puncture tires. I don't
Then
roll
you wouldn't
stuff.
come back to them in so long.
And I don't mow over stuff that will go into shreds. I just don't do it anymore. That's what I like about your department. You're able to carry shit in the city. That's what I'm laughing at.
Gumball.
She tells me you can't be selective.
That's the whole deal.
He says, summer stuff over there.
Water gets down there.
Out.
Especially in the winter months.
But yeah, I do anything. And that's what I had everything was new too. All the hay pump, they were raised. Elevator, 50-foot elevator. Wagons, I built all the old wagons. My wagons were built, you could stack them. I put them on the back so strong, not full 8-foot, 20-foot long, gear underneath, hold 8 tons, and I had 4 wheels. And I built them all myself. Oh, I had
You awake? I ain't seen. Hey, you out of politics.
Hey, what I want to know, what do you
Citizen
You out of politics. That's what you said. I gotta remember.
Thank you, sir.
Now you can run as a people's person.
Okay, we're back. Do we have a motion to come out of closed determination?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
I make a motion to come out of closed determination.
We have a motion by Alderman Geis. Do we have a second? Second by Alderman Dupree. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Do we have any action
Mayor,
to be taken? Alderman Geis.
I move to make a finding that it is in the best interest of the city to compromise and settle the pending litigation involving a proposed development per the terms as previously discussed in executive session, and authorize the mayor and city attorney to sign any documents and take all actions necessary to effect that settlement.
We have a motion by Alderman Geist. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Young. Is there any discussion? Roll call, Mr. Jim.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Absent.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Absent.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic, I didn't quite, did you say, what was your vote?
Absent.
All right, motion passes. 5 in favor, 2 absent. If there is no other business before this honorable board, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Mayor, so moved.
Motion by Alderman Young to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Bledsoe. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please, Mr. Robinson.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for your attendance. We thank you for your time. We are adjourned.
Hey, hey. Do y'all ever spray? Do y'all ever spray? No, fart.